On today's episode, we dip our toes into Kingdom Hearts, dunk on the Fantastic Beasts franchise, and talk about being a responsible consumer.
Gorsh. Stupid.
Gosh. Well. Welcome, everyone, to Halftone Takes, high contrast conversations where we zoom out to see the bigger picture. I am your host, Corey Revis, aka the November Man, and this...
And I am the other host, Adam Bucheri, a.k.a. Anthony Muschietti's 2017 directorial debut, Stephen King's It. Is a giant decal that's on a muscle car down the street that whistles and yells at me when I go by.
It's a lot.
It's the fucking weirdest thing. There's just a muscle car with a giant decal, and I mean giant. Like, it's like a 2-foot square decal.
Yeah.
Of Anthony Muschietti's directorial debut, 2017's 2017 Stephen King's It. And also, there is an official, like, construction company vehicle owned presumably by the same person, because it also has a giant decal of Anthony Muschietti's 2017 directorial debut, Stephen King's It.
Somebody really likes it.
Look, I like it. Like, I think part one is like a solid...
Do you really like it? Are you sure you like it?
I don't like it like that. Like,
do you? Are you sure you like it?
He,
or do you just, or is
he
it good?
Loves it. This is a man who has had sexual relations with Anthony Muschietti's 2017 directorial debut, Stephen King's It.
Because I was saying, do you like it, or did you just like it?
I'm saying that I just liked it, but he liked it.
He liked it?
He liked it like it.
Anyway, this is actually perfect. Speaking of that, speaking of marketing,
mm-hmm.
I got a question for you. Now, this question is going to go all over the place because people who are listening, if you've heard the first couple of episodes already, it's basically us just gushing about stuff that we like. And
mostly being real positive.
Yeah, and just zooming out. See what I did there? Zooming out to, other subjects, basically, but kind of staying on the idea of us discussing about stuff that's cool and what we've always talked about. But this is going to be probably the first episode where we're going to start going off on, like, different subjects that maybe we don't normally talk about all the time, but still happens a lot, and we probably just think about on our own time and have our own thoughts on it. And it's semi-relevant to what's going on. There's a couple of things that just happened that is just like, oh, that works. But mind you, that's not on purpose, because I don't pick stuff.
There's never a time when this subtopic isn't relevant.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. But we're going to be talking, and basically the phrase today is when marketing drives the media or art or whatever whatever.
The intersection between business and art.
Yes, which is very difficult. When you think a lot about it, it's very difficult to navigate, because on one hand, you want to make art and, you want to make it good, and you want to make it for, your audience. You want to be true to yourself and authentic. And then you need money.
Fucking money.
Because most things.
Idiot moron money.
You need to be able to pay people.
Stupid.
Unless you really want to do it yourself.
I do just want to, like, get out front and say that, like, low key, the phrase cost of living is like one of the most ghoulish things that's just like in our vocabulary.
If you take it literally, yeah.
It's
it's
how else can you take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking
Yeah.
grim.
It's grim. If you think about it, a lot of things are grim in
I know.
the world. But we're talking about media and art right now, which it can also be grim, but in a different way. So obviously we usually have 3 points. These points are easy today. The good,
Ooh.
the bad, and the ugly in terms of marketing.
Okay.
And when I describe ugly as a reference for everybody listening, it's usually what worked but shouldn't have worked, and
Sure.
what should have been a shoe-in to work and it didn't work as planned or at all. And
Mhm,
usually that's the ugly is just weird scenarios and stuff like that, because there are weird scenarios and stuff like that that happen in the industry and whatnot. So first thing I'm gonna ask ye old boy Adam here is, what does basically marketing driving media mean to you personally? I mean, you can give examples, but examples are coming regardless. But I just want to
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like, how do you feel about that just in general?
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to cover, as you said, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. But for me, I think it generally does have a pretty negative connotation. When we talk about not just marketing and media, but marketing driving media, there's an inherent cynicism to that. There's an inherent artlessness, maybe, that I can really chafe against if it feels like something exists for the purposes of marketing. That I tend to have kind of a gut reaction and a gut kind of revulsion to it. And I don't think that we can really talk about it without naming examples.
Yeah,
where
I mean that I knew that was coming, but I didn't know how you felt about, like, just starting off with, oh man, let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about this, because then I don't want it to devolve into, we hate all of this because A, B, and C. And I'm
I
like,
know.
okay.
But there are a couple
Oh, no,
that, like,
I have
I
them
do
too.
really hate.
I have them too, and then you're probably gonna be surprised because you don't hear a lot of hate from me. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
so for me, like, again, like a cynicism to the approach of art. So that will be things like movies that feel like they exist solely to set up franchises or to set up sequels. I think about, like, the cynicism of, like, the Universal's Dark Universe, where they tried to launch an MCU with the Mummy, and it was just, like, absolutely clown town embarrassing. And it's just like,
boy.
was there really, like, that much passion and heart and, like, oh, we just gotta make these monster movies and a thing, or was it, like, exclusively market forces?
Man, come on, man. Like,
I know.
Come on, man. I saw that in theater, live in the theater when they did that.
Brutal.
And I was like,
That's rough
you
stuff.
You guys are kind of jumping the gun here, right? I mean, I
Meanwhile-
don't think this movie can hang on by itself. So
No. Meanwhile, the original, this is kind of a segue, the original Universal's The Mummy movie, tied for my favorite Universal horror movie.
Really?
I really like that one. It's really good.
really,
The Boris Karloff, The Mummy.
oh, I know, I've seen it, and I was like, really?
It's a goodie.
As opposed to, like, something like the old school Dracula, or my personal favorite, Creature of the Black Lagoon.
So Creature from the
Which is
Black
slept-
Lagoon
which is
is
slept on.
tied for first
Yeah,
with The
which is
Mummy.
slept on, and my
Dracula's pretty low in my rankings. I don't like Bela Lugosi
opinion.
Dracula very
You
much.
don't like Bela Lugosi?
No.
I mean, he can be very goofy, but
It's not him. It's like, I think the movie itself just has some problems. It doesn't matter. This isn't the Universal Monster movie cast, but yeah. So something like the Dark Universe like feels like exceedingly cynical to me.
Oh yeah,
Like Amazon's Rings of Power also is pretty new in this whole thing. And I was surprised that it didn't feel more cynical than it was. Like, I don't love it, but I was expecting something much closer to like the way that they're treating modern Star Wars shows, where it's just like, check it out, it's Yoda.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Except
and
for
they do some of that. Like, there's not zero, but it doesn't feel as cynical as I expected. It felt like there was some art to it. And so a lot of what we're talking about is like, I think the passion of the artists behind media. And I feel like I can feel when there is genuine love and passion and excitement behind a project. I can feel when people are just kind of going through the motions. And I'm not just talking about like actors and performances. I'm talking about the sets and the setup and the direction, the script, like all of the parts of it, you know, the entirety of the production. Like, there are some bad movies, and by bad, I mean dumb, goofy, low budget, cheesy, campy, whatever, that it's so obvious that everyone involved is having a good time. Blast.
Yeah.
Buckaroo Banzai is like one of my favorites, and it's just like so clear that everyone is having such a great time on set. And that's, you know, cheesy, low budget, you know.
It's very B movie. It's very B movie where people are like, you know what?
The specific thing that it's going for, where it's like, this is like, you're jumping into episode 37 of a Buck Rogers serial, but this is the only one. Like, I love that feeling. I think that is such a great thing to strive for, and I think they really succeed in what they're achieving with it. Yeah, passion, man. Like, passion in art, and just like, there is a je ne sais quoi. There is, you know, a special something that can really elevate a movie. And for me, I think that is passion, largely behind the scenes. Pacific Rim is another movie where I'm just like, God, the people making this are in love.
I was, you already jumped it. You jumped like 3 things down to the good. Because I actually have the bad first. I have the bad, the good, and then the ugly last.
Okay.
But Pacific Rim is one of my good examples. Because, mind you, that's like one of my favorite directors. Guillermo del Toro is. Yep. I love him. I think I tend to like everything he does, on some level. But Pacific Rim is kind of up there for me personally, because I remember having the best time in the theater with this movie. It is a larger than life movie where I was like, wait a minute, you guys are using the Gladys voice? Like, why are you doing this? And then I was like,
because they can.
Yeah, well, then I was like, wait a minute. This entire thing is a mecha anime. They set it up exactly like a mecha anime. And I was like, wow, this is already even more awesome now.
I've said this before, but as far as like Western anime films, it's this and Speed Racer. Like, those are the two that get it.
You're already jumping. You're jumping forward. Stop. Because that's
I'm too good.
Or you just know me. Because I was about to say that. Speed Racer is one of the definitive ideas, not only in just passion, but marketing. Because they marketed it, in my opinion, they marketed that exactly how it was marketed. Exactly how it was,
I'm going to disagree with that.
Oh, see? Because a lot of people, well, here's the thing. Because I keep hearing this from so many people, is a lot of people don't like Speed Racer because they feel that it's too, I guess, similar to like what the Fast and the Furious franchise has become.
Not remotely. What planet are you living
no,
on?
I know. I've said this, and I'm like, no, it's not, because they're two different. And I wanted to get into this too, specifically too, like the Fast and Furious franchise. I know a lot of people don't like that, and a lot of people are like, no, this is hilarious, and I love this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna fall in the middle. And I know that's not a good answer for a lot of people, but I'm going to fall in the middle because I am not one of those people that's like, I'm going to watch this because it is like, it is ironically funny and everything. I'm like, no, this is great, but I'll tell you why it's great. It's great for the wrong reasons, because I see this entire, except for like the first one, well, the first two, I should say, except for the first two, this entire franchise has become what I've always thought of it to, you know, that I would do with it, which is basically playing with my Hot Wheels as a child. That is basically that.
See, now you're taking the words out of my mouth, because I'm like, it is, what if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson starred in Hot Wheels, the movie franchise?
Hot Wheels, the franchise. Because that's all the stuff that they're doing, yes, unrealistic, but that's something I would do when I was a kid with my Hot Wheels, dragging stuff around, doing impossible jumps, and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, this is awesome.
How much sense would it make if you, like, intercut clips from, like, Fast and the Furious, and like they're jumping from building to building, and then it cuts and it's like the Lego movie, and there's a little kid with his Hot Wheels going like,
it makes perfect sense.
It would make perfect sense.
It'd make perfect sense. And it would be fun that way, though. It would be unironically fun. So that's what I always viewed those as. As with Speed Racer, I always said, this is exactly it, you know, from what I remember anyway, with the commercials and just the marketing of it, I always thought that it was supposed to be like flashy and everything. They're like, this is all about color. This is all about, you know, drama in the most cheesy way. And it's just about, you know, a kid who just wants to go fast. And it's just,
I know.
From the first thing that opens up, I was like, this is goofy, but at the same time, this is the show. This is Speed Racer, the anime, because it was the same thing, the old school one, not the newest one that they made, the old school one where, you know, Speed is like literally on speed. And it's just like, hey guys, I want to go this, and I want to do this. And then they're like, Speed, slow down. I can't.
Speed, you can't. You'll have to turn left. He's like, I've never turned left before, but here we go. Goodbye, father. I made it.
I made it. Good job, Speed.
There's a monkey in your trunk. What? That stuff is genuinely very good to me. I really.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm pretty into it.
Yeah. I think we've mentioned this before in another episode, a previous episode, but I super unironically love Speed Racer. Like before it was cool. Before it was, because everybody did like a kind of a circle. They're like, I hate this. I hate this. You know what? This isn't that bad. This isn't that bad. I don't hate this. I kind of love this. I unironically love this. Oh wait, I actually do love this.
It's gotten a critical reevaluation that like I appreciate. Like I feel like it's okay to like Speed Racer, but like for a long time there, it was just like,
nobody liked Speed Racer except me. I had that. I downloaded that off of like what, LimeWire or whatever.
Whatever the fucking thing was in college.
Torrent. Yeah.
Oh, good times.
I remember downloading that in college, and I was like, I would watch that all the time with my headphones blasting and just in the dark, so I would get all the colors in my face. And I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Good colors.
But
so anyways, what you've touched on actually, like, I feel like we have to expand the scope of the conversation even more, because I was talking about like, you know, everything that's in the movie. But when we're talking about marketing and media, obviously we also have to talk about the marketing that surrounds a movie's release. or controversy that goes into the release. With Speed Racer, I think a great example is just one of expectations.
Yeah.
What am I going to see when I go into this movie? Because I feel really sincerely that most of the time, if someone goes into a movie and they have a bad time with it, it's less to do with the movie itself and more to do with their expectations.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I 100%
which is not to say
that.
there aren't bad movies. But like, I feel like that's really common, especially in genre films. You know, if you're going into a science fiction movie and you're expecting 2001: A Space Odyssey and you get like a science fantasy like a Star Wars, like it's going to rub you the wrong way. You know, it's not going to feel right. When people complain about season 8 of Game of Thrones suddenly throwing all the logic to the window and someone's like, oh, it's a show with dragons. Now you care about realism? And it's like, what they're complaining about is that the priorities of the show changed. Like, yes, it did used to care about logistics and specifics. It was like detail oriented and
within
crunchy.
Its fantasy,
and now
though, you can do that within your fantasy. That's the thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's possible to do both. Like, people think you got to do one or the other. No. I liked Game of Thrones for a long time. I just didn't keep up with it. But then, you know, when I did finally catch up, I understood why people were like, I didn't get as mad about it because I was like outside and then walked in and then I was like, this is a trash fire. And then I just calmly walked right back out. I wasn't there for when it exploded, but
yeah.
I understand why people, you know, it was like 100% expectations because they thought it was going to go on. However, what I wanted to say is, like going into that, because that, you know, that thought process went to me of, well, what happens if the same old just kept happening, and they didn't do that? Like, season 8 wasn't that way, but the same thing was happening. The prediction that everybody's was having basically came true or whatnot. Would people hate it? Like, no, well, they probably wouldn't hate it as much, but would they be satisfied? I mean, I know we're getting into like what ifs things.
Yeah,
but this is what I wanted to kind of get into. Maybe this is we need to wait for like the ugly part, because this definitely gets into, okay, you know, would this, why does the market go this way? Why does the market go that way type thing? And you know, so maybe we should
I
save
think that this is relevant, but like a show kind of changing its identity feels different to me than like a movie being marketed one way, but really it's another thing.
Let's go back to the first, briefly to the first point, the bad. Because I want to see basically, okay, now this is kind of like a very touchy issue, but it is an issue. And I would like to get your opinions on it, is because it's very thin liney to me, is how marketing is used to, you know, obviously pander to people. Now, how is this? Because here's the thing, marketing is going to happen regardless. A lot of people are like, "Oh, get your stuff out of it." I'm like, just like how you were talking about it, like just everywhere. I was like, it's going to happen regardless. Sometimes even without you noticing, because you said that this can happen. I think there's a movie that came out recently, a horror movie actually, Barbarian, that was marketed really weirdly, but apparently people got into it. And I've
heard good things, but I don't know. I didn't pay attention to the marketing at all.
Yeah, because it was all over the place, though. It was like, it just appeared some places. And I'm like, I've never even heard about this until it was literally 2 days before it came out. And I was like, all right, I'm curious, but, you know, is it one of those things where they're trying to market to weird people that are just, you know, always, you know, just in those spaces anyway? Or did they just figure, oh, this is a cool idea to do? Because I've seen a couple of things like that. And I think horror movies have a unique thing to this, is because I use it as it's a like that movie that's coming out soon that is actually looks really great. It's called Megan. You ever seen that trailer? Oh man.
So
Oh,
this is
man.
again one of the ways that we've diverged. You have always loved movie trailers, like
Yes,
you
yes.
view them in it
true.
as an art form in themselves. And meanwhile, I have just kind of adopted the philosophy of hype is poison, and just divorce yourself from it entirely if possible. You know, you
Yeah.
don't need it. You're fine.
See now, yeah, that is
Just go in blind.
this is one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I actually kind of don't agree with you.
Yep.
Because yeah, I do see your point of hype being kind of poisonous. It is because it's an expectation setter where
Yeah.
if a movie is hyped up a certain way and it gets people talking, you know, positive or negative, that is your perception of the movie. Or like we're talking about movies, but it could be anything. It could be games, it could be
Yep.
TV shows, it could be, you know, even music. It's like, oh man, like I really want to see this for this reason. So if you don't get that reason in there to whatever level that you want it, I think a big example of this is the current state of a lot of superhero movies. And I will use one that I personally like. Excuse me, that I personally like. Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. I thought I was going to get one thing, and I ended up getting something else. Now, mind you, that something else wasn't exactly bad, but it definitely put a damper on how I felt about things.
Sure.
Yeah, so I can see how hype is like, oh man, that's not good for you. However, hype done right, but the execution is good too. It like makes me feel even more, I don't want to say validated because that's weird, but
I think that's actually pretty close to the truth though. So like if I feel hype and I stoke that hype and I'm just like, oh yes, I cannot wait for whatever it is. You know, the highest peak that thing can reach is like meeting those expectations.
Yeah.
And anything below meeting those expectations is now disappointing. Even if, on the balance, I still like it. Even if on the balance, it's still pretty good. It's got some good ideas. It's got some good execution. It's not quite perfect. Maybe it wasn't quite as targeted to me as I wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. But it makes it feel like there's a lot more downside than upside.
The level is like, this is the bad and then this is kind of the good type thing.
Yeah.
But to me, in that small, I don't want to say it's like a small window, but in that window is probably some of the best, not only films, because we're just kind of talking films right now, not only films that I've seen, but film experiences that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say an example for me personally is anything Denis Villeneuve does.
He has a high hit to miss ratio.
Yeah. Obviously, the latest, we've talked about this like in the past, our Dune experience. Dune is one of my favorite books, sci-fi books, and I thought, because I watched like almost religiously the 1987 Dune. And I was like, this is great. And then I saw this and I was like, okay, this is what I actually wanted. This is entertaining. The Patrick Stewart one, that's entertaining.
Yeah.
But this is what I actually wanted, because I mean, and that's the same thing with the other one that he did that I really, really enjoyed is
Blade Runner?
Blade Runner 2049. I thought that was perfect. and I know it's not. I know it's not because I see problems in there, but they're very, very, very. I can count them on one hand. But
Yeah.
I saw that movie twice in the theater, and both times I was like, this is the kind of noir that I want all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. Like, and it's just, I had an experience seeing, obviously the first time I saw it, just like the first time I saw Dune. And, because we were talking about, like, how Dune is just loud, and I completely agree.
It is loud.
It is just loud. But I felt like, I was like, yes. And I can see how that could get to people, but I kind of wanted it to be loud. And I hoped it was loud, because the marketing made it out like it was, oh, this is big. This is epic. This is bringing it back to space epic type thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that you've touched into like an interesting point as well, which is also like dealing the intersection between business and art, marketing and media, like is an onion where there's just always more layers to it. But I think like the 20-year later sequel is something that specifically we've been dealing with a lot lately. And the number of times that works, I can count on one hand. Like, it's rare that is not.
Okay, explain that a little bit. You're talking about just sequelitis or franchises, right?
Yeah, you know, in our modern world, and I don't want to be that guy who's just like, franchises, you know, blah. But like, there's a lot of, and a lot of them fall off my brain because I don't think they're worth my time. But like the good ones are, you know, Mad Max Fury Road, where it's just like, oh, it's been 30 years since the last movie, and then this comes out and it's like a fucking masterpiece, like just about as close to.
A lot of people forgot about it too. Like, people forgot about that franchise, and then it comes back. It's like, oh yeah, Mad Max exists. Like,
yeah, before it was like, oh yeah, it's like, you know, is that old movie series, and people,
my parents used to watch this.
People wear fetish wear and like drive around trucks and stuff, and they're real weird, and they're like a mixed bag, and then it's just like, God, Fury Road, like action movie of the decade, like incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049, you know, a sequel that no one was asking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. You know, that's a movie that only exists because of market forces, and somehow like turned into that. And like, I'm with you that like, I think Blade Runner 2049 is hugely impressive and has something to say, and it cares. Like, that is a movie with art and passion behind it.
We're talking about passion here. That movie has passion in it. And you could tell.
Absolutely.
It's just, the people that worked on that actually cared about like everything. And I think the one thing that's really difficult, and this is just for me, it's really difficult for sci-fi stuff, is atmosphere. That movie nails atmosphere.
Yeah,
and
incredible.
It doesn't feel bloated. It doesn't feel cheesy, like cheap. And I'm not talking cheap as in stuff is going to fall apart. I'm saying cheap as in, oh, you guys, why would you do this type thing? Like, this is obviously, you're trying to make me feel like, oh, okay, this is how things would actually go. Instead, things feel lived in that movie, but still appropriate atmosphere for basically all the scenes and stuff like that. In color, I think color is very important in sci-fi movies, and I don't want to just see neon all over the place.
I mean, I love that, you know, neon-drenched cyberpunk aesthetic, but like the fact that Blade Runner 2049 went beyond that and explored different things, like,
and it still felt futuristic, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. So, but
hugely impressive. I haven't seen it, but people really like Top Gun Maverick. You know,
I haven't seen it either yet. I need to still see it. So
I mean, that's one of those like 20-year later sequels where I'm like, yeah, but the first movie's only okay. Like, I know people really love it. People are
that's the thing.
passionate, but it's like
a lot of people have said the same thing of I just like I like the first movie okay, but then they see the new one, they're like, wow, this is actually super impressive. Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Kind of curious as to what provokes such a strong reaction.
And that is part of marketing too. Like, Tom Cruise marketed the hell out of that movie. Like, obviously he's crazy, and he was like, look, I'm on the top of a plane for real. Like, I could fall off and die.
I'm on a
Don't
plane.
You want to come see my movie?
And I'm going to drink a lightning bolt. And I'm going to kill a star.
Let's go.
Watch
you want to see me watch? And I was like, now, mind you, that is like, he is. I mean, say what you will about the man personally. He is how he is. But the guy is a marketing genius because
he's talented.
He loves getting his fingers just right into everything he does. And like, especially his big franchises. We're talking franchises. Like, look at how the Mission Impossible stuff. Mission Impossible has been going on forever, it feels like. Yep. But each movie is like, this is actually pretty exciting. I mean, that's part of the appeal, because this is how James Bond used to be. Is, oh man, I saw James Bond do something crazy. How is he going to get out of this? It's a new age James Bond that's a lot more, up to date. Let's just say that, because this is why, I think a lot of James Bond falls out of favor with a lot more people. It's not as marketable anymore because it's very much, I mean, this is my opinion, very much basically markets to like an older generation, if you want to call it that.
It's
not saying that the movies are bad.
It's so strange to me that they clearly don't know what to do with James Bond, because in 1997's GoldenEye, we have Dame Judi Dench telling it's whatever Pierce
Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan. There we go.
Pierce Brosnan.
Telling Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce is there?
I was like, Morgan? That's his last name. Telling Pierce Brosnan that, like, you're a relic of the Cold War. You're a dinosaur. You're outdated. The world doesn't need you. And now 30 years later, we're still doing the same goddamn thing of people being like, Bond, you're obsolete now. There are drones and shit.
Each movie
and
they're saying that.
We can upload data to the cloud now, Bond. You'll never be able to stop me.
And he's like,
and it's just like, like we're just spinning our wheels because people don't know what to do with this character. They have a franchise and nowhere to go with it. Casino Royale was, I thought, like a really brilliant reboot of the franchise because it addressed like some of those core questions, and it turned Bond from this cartoon into a human being, a character. And they showed him wounded with, this genuine relationship, this genuine love that they had. And that's why he's cold and callous and distant, and he can't connect with people anymore because he's been hurt and he doesn't want to be hurt again. And then they made 5 more movies. And it's just like, where do you go? Like,
I mean, this apparently seems to happen all the time too, which is why they get new people to play him and just play him a different way. Is because
it's like Doctor Who, where like each era has its own like feel and vibe to it, which like I get.
Yeah, and I think that's how they used to update him. MGM used to do that, but now that the current Bond saga is over, like people are kind of interested in, who's going to be the new Bond, but at the same time people are like, I'm not as excited about that anymore. And that's, I guess I'm glad they kind of sent it off a good way, in my opinion, because spoiler alert, I don't want to disappoint people, but spoiler alert, in the last one, Bond dies. But,
does he really?
Yeah, he actually dies. Now, he dies kind of epically, because I was like, okay.
You know what? Good for him. Well done, Bond.
You beat everybody. That's how you won. But I mean, that's the thing is, at this point, they can kind of keep him dead. They can be like, you know what, this franchise is kind of over. Especially considering MGM just kind of doesn't exist anymore. But you know, it's.
Here's another thing about modern Bond that blew my mind was that in Skyfall, they revealed,
which is my favorite.
It's way sloppier than people give it credit for. It's a fun ride, but it is a sloppy movie.
I don't think it's super sloppy, but I can see. I've heard that before, but because especially
it's
when it
got
comes
a
to like
lot
the
of
villain.
good moments.
Yeah, but I think those moments and those set pieces, and some of the cinematography in there stands out from the other modern Bonds. It just, but yeah, like I understand what you're saying though, because that's not the first time I've heard that. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. But like the most wild plot twist that they had was them telling me that this character was the same character as Sean Connery, that we've all been in part of a single continuity, and this man's real name is James Bond. And I'm like, why would you not choose to say like, oh, there have been a bunch of James Bonds. There have been like 5 James Bonds. It's a code name, and people just keep getting them over the years. Like, there have been a lot of 007s. It's not that special. Daniel Craig is just the newest one.
They kind of hinted at that with the later movies, too, after Skyfall. They kind of hinted that, 007 is kind of just, it could be a lot of people. Because, the next one might be female and everything like that.
Sure. The next one. But
specifically
Daniel Craig
James. Yeah. He's the one.
His Christian birth name is James Bond. And that's wild to me. I don't know. What a weird choice.
I mean, I guess they thought that was going to be a good reveal type thing. And, I mean, I have no idea.
But it's like an anti-reveal. It's an anti-plot twist.
Yeah, ain't that the truth, though? Because that's not what I remember, like, being the coolest thing about that movie, too. Now, mind you, I'm one of those people that watch all the James Bond movies, and I'm like, yeah, I saw that coming. Yeah, I am the most boring person when it comes to reveals, because I tend to remember that kind of stuff. Even with, like, all kinds of genres, basically.
Here's another, like, marketing thing, which is the plot twist that's so obvious that the audience guesses it from the first poster, and then they have to deny it in all of the interviews, which happens in Spectre. But I'm not going to talk about Spectre because I only watched the first half of Spectre and then I got bored and stopped watching it. But I'm going to talk about it in Star Trek Into Darkness.
Oh, no.
Which, spoilers for Star Trek Into Darkness. If you haven't seen it, it's a ludicrous film. It's absolutely cartoon, wild horseshit.
But the third half is pretty, I mean, the third part is pretty awesome.
The third half.
Third half. Yeah, you heard me.
I don't like basically any of that movie. I think it's pretty rubbish.
It's
got some camp fun. Like it has some camp charm. Yeah. I had a friend who was just constantly going around like flipping their hair and being like, "How many torpedoes do you have?" It's just like fucking weird, man.
I know. To me, all the Star Trek movies are like that, though. Like, they're all, especially the
new ones, are pretty. The new ones are not to my taste.
And you know what? That is fine because I like them, but I am not in love with them. And because I heard it from both sides, especially when the first one came out, like the reboot.
Yeah.
Because I was with some older folks and they hated it because they're like, this is not see, and that's the thing is, this is not my Star Trek. And correct. I was like, all right, but it can be other people's Star Treks. And then other people ended up not liking it because it's not the old Star Trek. And I was like, so are these people who normally go, oh, this is not my thing and I don't want to enjoy it and I'm not, are they right? Or, is it just made bad and it could be made better?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of bad, and
Yeah.
I chafe against not my Star Trek, not my whatever.
Oh, yeah, I
like
do
that.
that. I
That
do the
just
same
reeks of
thing.
gatekeeping to me. Like
Yeah.
I dislike it.
I completely agree. But that's one question I always had with that is it bad because they tried to reboot it? Or is it bad because they just made the movies bad?
Yeah.
So I'm
yeah,
like-
I think that's a
Yeah.
valid question.
And I'm like-
anyways, I'm going to go back to my point about Star Trek Into Darkness. Star Trek Into Darkness has an idiot moron plot twist where Benedict Cumberbatch gets cast in the movie, and people are like, "Oh, is he Khan? Is this Star Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan?" And our marketing is just like,
No.
"No."
No.
And
You're
then, like,
stupid. How stupid
can, like,
can you be for stupidly thinking that that's stupid?
It's very funny because you can look up like interviews. People are just point blank asking Benedict Cumberbatch, "Are you Khan?" And he's just like, "No, absolutely not. I'm a totally original character named John." And people are like,
That rhymes with con.
"Okay."
And then they
And-
immediately look up at IMDb and see him as cast as Khan in the
Well, I mean,
credits.
it's how it's revealed in the movie as well, because it has the
Oh.
cadence of a plot twist where he's just like, "My name isn't actually John, like I told you. My real name is Khan." And then Kirk and Spock are like, "Okay, Khan, cool, nice to meet you. I'm Kirk. This is Spock. Can we get you any tea or anything? Do you need anything?" Like, I'm getting a call from Future Spock, actually. Hold on. Future Spock needs to tell me that this is actually a big twist that we have no context for in the movie. Doesn't mean anything to us in fiction,
Yeah.
but there's Future Spock, and he's just like, that was a weird old guy who liked to wrestle people on bridges, mostly.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to know something funny?
No. I hate funny. What's up?
Somebody who we always talk about, a mutual friend, Doug.
Doug.
His little sister. We'll get him on here eventually because when we talk about like Alien or something like that, he'll go off.
We'll have to
off.
apologize for not roasting him, but like with the cadence of roasting him every time he comes up on the show.
But
Anyways.
his little sister, when she saw Into Darkness, this was when she was much younger. She's obviously older now, but it kind of cracked us up to where I can't unsee this. She thinks Benedict Cumberbatch looks like a snake. So every time,
Well, that's why they cast him as Smaug.
yeah, but whenever he came up in that Star Trek Into Darkness, like what the big reveal was, like he's like, "My name is Khan." He would stick out. He would flick his tongue out.
Flick your tongue.
Yeah, and he would do that throughout the entire movie. And then I'm like, she would just say, "Oh, that's all he does. He just flicks his tongue. It looks like he just flicks his tongue out the entire movie." And I'm like, I can't unsee this now. Every
That's
time
very
I
funny.
think of that, every time I think of that scene, it's like, and then he just every once in a while when he's being dramatic, he's like, yeah. I was like, why is this a thing? Please. So
Yeah. That's
now I
the thing
can't
that you
unsee
need to know about Benedict Cumberbatch, like as an actor, is that if you startle him, like his hood flares out and it's a defensive position. He's trying to make himself look larger.
And he spits in your
in order
face
to
and
scare
it
off
blinds
predators.
You.
You may be like, Benedict Cumberbatch is in a weird place and I can't tell if he's hot or not. And it's because you're actually looking at his false eyes, which scare off predators.
Yeah. He blinked. He blinked like horizontally.
Yeah. It's
blinked
because he has
horizontally.
protective films that cover his eyes in order to help him swim underwater. Stupid.
Poor Benedict Cumberbatch, who's like a Shakespearean actor who can like
Yeah.
act the hell out of shit, but no, we reduce him to
Perfectly
a snake.
serviceable actor. He just is kind of weird looking
looks like
in a
a
way
snake.
that I can't tell if he's hot or not.
He's a snake. That's what he is. He's a snake.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's a dinosaur. He's a dinosaur. He's that, dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
Clever girl.
That's my favorite part in the movie because
Oh,
it's
it's
so
best.
realistic. But the thing is, it's so realistic on all sides. That whole sequence of him being like, you know what, I got you. I know what I'm doing, and I got you. And then he gets snuck up on. He's like, "Gosh, shit!
Yeah,
you did get me."
The dinosaur rolls up, and he's just like, "Game recognized game."
Yeah. Basically, that is the only legitimate death I recognize in that movie because I was like, you know what? He did get outplayed. He wasn't an idiot. He just got outplayed. As with everybody else, that was an idiot move. I'm talking to you, Samuel L. Jackson. Yes, you were an idiot. Why did you think that was a good idea?
Sorry,
But
Sam
anyway.
Jackson's arm.
Yeah. But anyway, we're not talking about Jurassic Park, which does have a good marketing campaign, by the way. But
Those new Jurassic Park sequels
no,
are like
let's not
peak.
talk about the new.
Well, I'm just saying, like, as far as like sequels that feel cynical, like, boy, do they feel cynical.
When you say cynical, I hear for profit. I hear cash cow because those are nothing but cash cow. It may have started out as a good idea, but
I'm not saying that they
turned
are
into-
cash cows because I don't know what the actual box office was. I don't know what the ROI on this particular investment is, but like they're so clearly exclusively made.
They're
for-
studio films.
It's like a computer just spit out like we should have a
Yeah.
new Jurassic Park movie and Jeff Goldblum should be in it. And
It's very formulaic. It's very. The studio grabbed you by the neck and said, "You're gonna do it this way. We want it this way. You need at least 2 kids. You need them really. You need one of them older, so they're like so jaded, and you need another one that's younger that loves dinosaurs. You need a babysitter who is automatically just dinosaur fodder. You need all these things to be attacked for no reason. We need a hook. We need a hook dinosaur. No, we need 2. We need 2.
I love talking about Chris Pratt's relationship with his dinosaur daughter, and I love like Chris Pratt's motivation is that he's going to get this raptor through college. Like she is a strong, independent raptor.
That's a good goal. I like that.
Yeah.
Goal.
No,
I like that.
That's why he's the most noble character in cinema. Like, it's because he just wants to. He just wants to help his dinosaur daughter succeed.
He just wants to help his dinosaur daughter.
His strong adult dinosaur child.
See, and that's the thing.
He's got a special relationship. Here's another super cynical like marketing thing that happened in Jurassic World 2: Fallen Kingdom, a movie that like on paper should be my shit because it has haunted like Resident Evil mansions with evil labs in the basement.
Don't do that.
I
to
remember
yourself.
nothing about the film.
Don't
like,
do that.
I absolutely
don't do that.
Fell off
don't
my
do
brain.
that to yourself. You can forget that.
But the marketing for that movie, if you look at the trailer, it's like 90% Jeff Goldblum, and they're like, guys, Jeff Goldblum is going to be in this movie. Here's 2 minutes of Jeff Goldblum talking. And then you watch the movie, and there are 2 minutes of Jeff Goldblum talking. They showed you 100% of the Jeff Goldblum content.
Is that
in that
cheating?
movie.
Yes. Did it work? Yes.
No,
That's the thing. Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you.
I know.
I was like, because you are 100% correct, though. It was obviously pandering to like the nostalgia of the original film. Not just I should say original films, because people love Jurassic Park 2. Lost World.
Yeah.
Well, people love it. I enjoy it, but like I said, for the wrong reasons. And I
enjoy exactly one scene, and that is Jeff Goldblum's gymnast daughter doing the bars and like bicycle kicking a dinosaur into a pit of spikes.
Yeah.
That's fucking funny.
That's clear. That's the very much the worst part of that movie too, because that didn't need to be in there. But at the same time, it was in there. Yeah, but it's
got big Jim Cotta energy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing about that movie though, and
Jim Cotta.
No,
this is the Jim Cotta cast. Welcome to the Jim Cotta cast. I'm obsessed with it.
Well, the entire movie, this is the reason why I mainly like that movie, though, is because of the consistency of Jeff Goldblum's character from the first movie to the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
He still is terrified of dinosaurs. And he's like, why aren't you all terrified of the same stuff I'm terrified about?
Hi, excuse me, Jeff Goldblum. I was on a dinosaur island, and it went badly, and so here I am. I'm on the dinosaur island again. I'm actually more scared this time because I already knew that it goes badly. So if everyone could get onto my page, that would be great.
Yeah, nice Jeff Goldblum.
As a B-.
Oh, I didn't want to be mean to you. Like, I didn't want to say, "Oh man, you suck. You suck."
Thank you.
Ass.
It's a flattering compliment.
Yeah, that's Jeff Goldblum, man. That's
nice. The video game Star Wars: The Force Awakens 2. That game sucks ass. That game is.
Wait, what?
Not The Force Awakens. The Force Unleashed 2.
Oh,
apologies.
I was gonna say they made a movie about the Force Awakens. I mean, a game. Force Awakens?
What they didn't tell you is that J.J. Abrams' 2017 Star Wars film, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, was actually based on a video game. Stupid joke. Anyways. The Force Unleashed 2 does the same exact thing where the trailers are like, oh shit, Yoda's here. And Yoda's outside a cave and he's like, don't go into that cave. And then Starkiller is just like, don't tell me what to do. You're not my real dad. And he goes into a cave. And then you play the video game, and that is also 100% of the Yoda content in that video game.
Don't go into that cave. What?
Come to Dagobah, I have a spooky cave here, as we all know.
Come to Dagobah. Smoke the grass.
Not the only little green man will you see.
You'll see. I'm not looking for a little green man. I'm looking for this specific type of grass.
Look, old Jedi Master Yoda. Yeah, I know who you are. It's not a surprise. Don't know who you think you're fooling. I'm just after that icky sticky. So, get on my fucking level. That's exactly what every cutscene from Star Wars: The Force Unleashed 2 is like.
What is it? I never played it.
Dude, that game sucks so much ass. It's so much worse than the first one, and the first one is like solidly middle of the road. The first one is like okay.
Wasn't that for
Force
GameCube?
Unleashed 2 is dog shit.
Wasn't that for GameCube? I think that was.
No. PS3 at least.
Really?
Like mid PS3. I want to say 2012.
Why do I feel like that was on GameCube though?
Because you're hallucinating, man, and there's a million fucking Star Wars video games. I don't know what to tell you.
That is true. There's a lot of them.
There was a Wii port of the first game, which is wild.
Oh, jeez.
And by port, I mean they just made a separate video game with the same name. That's always so weird to me.
I mean, look at how many remasters there are now. And like remake, not remake, remaster and everything.
But a remaster is like the same game. Like I'm talking about the era where they're just like, we're porting this game to the Nintendo DS, which means we just have to create a completely different game that has kind of the same structure and outline. But this version of Spider-Man 2, you fight the Vulture, and in the real version, you fight a totally different guy.
Perfect segue into that. Because let's talk about like games, like marketing in video games.
Sure.
Because that's the same thing. How many times has Skyrim been remade again?
Oh, it's exhausting.
Why, people?
But
why?
I mean, the answer is that people love it and that people buy it. And maybe I don't love it, but I put my 400 hours in. You know, I paid the tithe. I did the work. And after 400 hours,
I paid my dues. I'm allowed into the club, right?
The reward that I got was that I realized I didn't like that video game that much. And like, And there are people who will look at me and be like, "Ah, you hypocrite!" Like, "Oh,
No.
I've got you," but actually you played it, so that means you did like it. And it's like, yeah, look, I didn't. It's not like I didn't derive zero joy from it, but like, it really is a poster child of like bad design that I don't like. You know, a lot of things that I find very frustrating about that game. The flip side of that. Resident Evil 4 has been released 700 times,
man.
and I have bought it 699 times.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't buy the PlayStation 2 version because I had a GameCube, but that's about
also,
it. I
there's
bought it
another
on
one-
the Wii. I bought it on the PC. I got the VR version. I'm going to buy the remake. I'm a basic bitch. I love that game.
And this is the same guy.
I bought it on the Switch.
Yeah, and this is the same guy, people. Are you listening? Are you listening very carefully? This is the same guy who told me, "Nah, I ain't buying that new Resident Evil 4 shit. I ain't buying
Untrue.
that shit because
I did not
they're
say
being
that I
too
wouldn't buy it.
serious with it. It's campy on purpose. Why would they do this? I ain't buying that shit. Get that shit out of my face." And I'm like, you know you're gonna buy this. You know you're gonna buy it.
I never said I wasn't going to buy it. I was always going to buy it. I was always going to buy it on day one. I'm a Resident Evil
He just didn't tell
diehard.
me. He didn't want to tell me because he knew what I would say.
But I was skeptical. I did have a lot of skepticism about the remake, and I was just like, the original has such a specific tone that I don't see how they can translate it and keep the things that I think are so special. Like, I'm worried that they're going to turn it into something cynical. And then the gameplay preview came out, and I'm just like,
I was about to
fuck,
say,
man, this looks
I was
so
about to
good.
say, I
Shit.
saw the gameplay preview, and I saw I saw like the prompts, like the parry prompts.
Yeah.
Where he parries the
chainsaw.
the chainsaw with this gun. I was like, oh, I think I might be interested in this now. This looks awesome. This is what I want.
it's and again,
Well,
like,
also,
I love
it's in
Resident
third
Evil.
person again, and I like third person, so I'm automatically more appealing to playing it. But yeah.
Like, Resident Evil is like the one franchise, the one major franchise that I allow myself to feel hype with, which does betray me because, like, I think Resident Evil Village is like solidly okay. It's okay.
He said it's straight mid for all of those people that are listening. It's straight mid.
Straight mid. It's like, it uses the Resident Evil 4 inventory system, but it doesn't really understand it. It doesn't really use it in a meaningful way. It's got like the spooky cast of characters, but none of them are as charismatic and cool as the Bakers. It's got tall vampire lady, but she's not in it very long.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It just kind of didn't totally work on me. But so I went into like the Resident Evil 4 remake stuff being like, that's how I'm going to feel. And now my hype is pretty high. Like, it looks really good. It looks really fun. It looks like it's going to keep a lot of the gameplay rhythms while modifying them in ways that I think are genuinely interesting, genuinely like moving it forward. And then also not being so slavishly devoted to the script and the story that, like, there's not going to be any surprises. You know, it's not going to be like the Shadow of the Colossus remake or the Demon Souls remake, where it's like, this is literally the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same game.
The Last of Us remake, you know, being the most cynical version of that. There's reasons
true.
To like it, but like, it's just the same game, and it's not that old.
Yeah, that's what was weird about that. The Last of Us isn't that old.
No.
So why did they make a remake of it?
Same with the Dead Space remake, where it's like, here's my perspective. I think that there are lots of games that deserve remakes, but they're all from before we figured out like the standardized modern video game. The Last of Us is after that point. It's got controls that you expect.
I know what
that
you're talking about. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Like, just the way that it feels in the hand, the gameplay rhythms of it. They're all very modern.
It's a rhythm. It's very much like a modern video game rhythm.
Yeah.
So
And like, again, specifically control schemes, because if you go back and try to play, I don't know, Metal Gear Solid 2, you're just like, what lunatic designed
well,
designed this control
I
scheme?
I think I've told you this, which we'll probably have to go into on another podcast even more. But this is what I wanted, and I doubt I will ever get what I want from this.
Mhm.
But this is what I want from specifically for like a Mega Man Legends 2 remake. Is I know they came out with a Mega Man Legends 3 and it's only in Japan. I don't care about that. I only played the 2. And I love 2. I love it. But going back to 2 is janky.
Mm-mm.
It's
Yeah,
super
it's hard.
janky to play. I still like the game a lot. I love the game. Mega Man is my favorite. But if you guys can remake this, like how you remade like Final Fantasy VII, and I understand why people loved that. Like Final Fantasy VII was like super hype for like thousands of people. I wasn't a Final Fantasy person. So I'm like, yeah, but if they could do that for like me specifically, because I'm the most important person in the world, and you should
Right.
make a game for me specifically. How about Mega Man Legends 2? How
Now,
about you can remake that,
For all
please?
of the media moguls out there, I do want to emphasize, and I want you to understand that Corey is actually the most important person, and you should be directly marketing to him. So
Yes,
just please take that to heart.
Because you know I'm like basic. I will pay for stuff and be like, why did I pay for this like a week later? But you got my money. It's easy. It's easy money. You will make easy money off of me. Please do this.
I've
Please
said this
sponsor
before,
me.
but I think that a modern Mega Man Legends would basically be a Ratchet and Clank.
Which, yes and no. Because I think we talked about this. This is something that we talked about, obviously off mic. And this was a while ago. And I think I kind of agree with you and I kind of don't. Because I also think that there's a game out there that kind of recently came out too that echoes a little bit more of what I would kind of want from a modern day Mega Man. And that is Returnal.
I haven't gotten to play that.
Yeah, Returnal feels, I know a lot of people are going to be like, who are listening are probably going to be like, oh, no, Returnal is very much like modern day Metroid. I'm like, yes, I know. It feels maturely Metroid, but translate that a little bit more cartoony, a little bit more,
Yeah.
I don't want to even say anime, but just a little bit more sci-fi cartoony, and you've got Mega Man. And I'm like, that is perfect. To me, it's
I also threw out Doom Eternal as a
as
a reference. Putting it in third person.
Yeah.
But
And that's
like
very
the
much like
different weaknesses and like the way you're constantly cycling through weapons.
And that's and to me that's really cool. Like maybe add a little bit more platforming, I guess, maybe. But yeah, like just gotta mix all those in. But still have like the same feel of Mega Man. Now, mind you, that is just me talking, and that making games is Howard. But that's what I would want. And mind you, I probably will never get that because Mega Man isn't as popular as something like Resident Evil, which can be remade and remade again, and people will buy that up. Which is
I
fine.
disagree. Like they just abandoned that franchise. Like it's not that there's no money in there. They just quit.
Yeah, which is to me it's a shame. Well, technically they didn't quit because they love to re-release Mega Man Battle Network, which aren't bad games, but they love releasing those.
I would love a new Mega Man Battle Network. Like Mega Man Battle Network, it's on the Switch. They zoom out the fucking camera. Not everywhere is a maze for no reason. You turn the random encounters way down, but you keep the core battle system. Like I'd be down for that.
So you're talking about Mega Man Command Mission then, right?
I've literally never heard of that in my fucking life.
Okay, hold on for a second. I need to I need to show you this. I need to. I need to.
Oh, this is going to be riveting podcast material.
Man, like you guys. I mean, I'm okay for everybody listening. I am bringing up Mega Man Command Mission, and I'm just gonna have him just look at it. Just look at it.
I'm worried now.
Oh no, you don't have to be worried about this. This is some good stuff right here. No, I don't want. Stop it. I don't want the trailers. Or no, I want the trailer. I don't want the reviews. I know how this game is. I know how. Oh man, This
isn't the
PS2.
weird GameCube one, is it? Where it's like a side-scrolling, like it's kind of a regular Mega Man, but also kind of Battle Network.
No. This is like Pokemon. No, this is like no, not Pokemon. This is like Final Fantasy Mega Man. This is awesome, and by awesome I mean horrible, because this is the thing I told you about where. What? Hold on a second.
Yeah, this game. Look, I want to emphasize how 0% this is what I asked for when I said that I wanted a new Mega Man Battle Network.
Oh, I know you didn't. I know you didn't want that, but this is what I want for you, and that's what's important.
Let's all
this
keep
is what
our.
I want for you.
Look, you are the most important demographic. We've been over this. We all know this. So, I think I got to give this one to you.
For you. Okay. But yeah. Anyway, I mean, going back to it, yeah, that's what I would want for a Mega Man remake in terms of that. But there's been so many, like, not necessarily reboots, but like remasters and everything of the same game. And Capcom used to have a huge problem with this. It used to be way bigger than what it is now, actually, because Street Fighter, another game, I'm pretty sure Street Fighter 2 got released like 4 times or 4 or 5 times. Just a little bit different iterations, and I was like, why? But
and like in the old days, there was an argument for like, no, we couldn't do like an online patch. Like Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence is actually meaningfully different than the original release of Metal Gear Solid 3, so you should buy it. Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition actually does add some good stuff.
Yeah.
You should buy that. Street Fighter 2 Turbo like actually does make some meaningful changes.
Oh yeah.
And I think that there's also a good argument for, like, I want things to be available. You know, if there's a game and it's not available on modern systems or, like, from the last 2 generations, if it weren't for the Demon's Souls remake, how would you play Demon's Souls? Like, emulator or an old PS3, which, like, not a lot of people are going to plug in old consoles, especially more than 1 generation out of date. So there's an accessibility angle that I'm sympathetic to. But something like Skyrim, something like, the endless stream of Capcom things, those can feel cynical to me.
Most companies, big companies like this do this, by the way. But we're not just picking on Capcom. But
look, I cannot buy the original 3 Sonic games again. Like, I can't.
Wait, what are you talking about? Like Sonic 1, 2, and like 3 and
3?
Knuckles?
Yeah.
Really?
Just the number of times that I've bought them is just exhausting.
Oh, really? Oh, man. Like, I only bought those once. I wouldn't rebuy those. But at the same time, you have a point, though. Because we were recently talking about this in terms of, like remasters, is a pet peeve you have, and this is legitimate, Resident Evil 7. You want to play that in VR. Like, is this the one where you want to play in VR, but they only have it available for one thing, and they won't release it anywhere else in VR?
I mean, yeah, this is definitely another aspect of marketing that I didn't consider is exclusivity, which sucks. You know, accessibility is just really important. People should be allowed to play things. And sometimes there's a really good reason. Sometimes you're on the Nintendo DS and the game is designed for the 2 screens and you can't really play it any other way. But it's pretty rare. And you should err on the side of making things accessible, if possible, just because people want to play your shit. They want to experience things. And no one gives a shit about console as objects. You know, yes, there are console warriors and there are people who are very passionate. And if God of War ever comes out on Xbox, it's the deepest betrayal. And I don't care about you.
Yeah,
you're wrong.
And that's the thing is, that's like a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like, nobody really cares. The only thing that stands in the way, and I've found this out like just by doing my own research and stuff with certain games and franchises that I like, is a lot of it has to do with copyright issues. And
sure,
that is a bureaucratic nightmare, and it sucks. It straight up sucks. But we have no power over that because companies will be, no, you don't get to play this because you know what?
Yeah.
What do you want to do for us? And the people would be like, but
Very
the people
weird.
want to play it, and they're like, we don't give a shit. Then
sorry, we used a licensed
console.
song 15 years ago, and now you can't do shit. Well,
yeah, too bad, so sad. You just
piracy,
go and cry
then.
about it. Yeah, I mean, how are you gonna pirate like Resident Evil 7 on a on like a what you call it?
Well, let's be real. Someday, that will be
Somebody's
available.
gonna do it.
Someone's going to be able to
do
find an efficient enough PS4 emulator and to find some way to connect a future VR headset to it, and I will be able to play Resident Evil 7 VR on PC through an emulator. Like, it's a statistical inevitability. But at that point, I'm not going to want to play it because it's just going to like be,
you know what happened, right? You know what recently happened, right? Like, somebody jailbroke Bloodborne and put it at 60 frames a second.
Oh, yeah. Correct.
And you saw that?
Is so frustrating because it shows that it's extremely possible and extremely easy, and Sony just refuses to do it for no reason.
But
brutal.
I honestly think that Sony just doesn't want to do it because it is it's like a copyright nightmare because of
I don't think it
Bloodborne
is
was
though.
made. I think I remember seeing somewhere that Bloodborne is super unique to the other franchises of From Software. Even when it comes to like Sekiro, it's like super unique in how it was made. Not the company itself, but how it was made.
Some kind of
like
rights
Sony
thing.
Specifically owns Bloodborne.
Well, that's fine. Just make it. Release it for PlayStation 5. Like,
well, Sony doesn't want to do that when they have other stuff coming out.
Yeah,
now,
ridiculous.
I completely agree with you. It is an automatic win.
Here's the market forces. The market forces that are there. You got legions of dipshits who will pay you money for 60 frames per second Bloodborne. You got two of them right here.
It could be the exact same game. It could be the exact same game. It's just
it would be preferable.
Just
don't do the Demon Souls remake to Bloodborne.
Stable.
Like
it's just stable.
Yeah.
Like
just higher resolution, higher frame rate. That's it.
Yeah.
Or
you don't even have
even
to change
better,
anything.
release it on PC. Now it's future proof. You've already been doing it with God of War and Spider-Man and all your other franchises.
Now people will just mess with it and make it better
issues.
Anyway.
Figure it out. People are willing to give you money. What's wrong with you? It's free money.
That is the one thing. Yeah, that is the one thing about that. I never got that. But here's the thing. This kind of
console exclusivity is dumb. Like, it really is.
It's dumb.
Like,
console exclusivity is dumb for the customer, which automatically is dumb. But it's smart for the company because the company now has, like, it's a rights thing. And it sucks, but this is the way it's going to be. And it's about to get worse because, of the, the acquirements of all these, like, smaller companies to the
terminal
big two.
Mergers that will eventually produce the singularity. And truly, the Ubisoft game will conquer the earth at that point.
Hey, people talk a lot of nonsense about Ubisoft, but they're like Riders Republic game is actually a lot of fun.
Well,
And
I'm sure that there's lots of fun to be had there.
yeah,
Like, they don't make it a consistent formula because it's not fun. Like, they found
Yeah.
something that works and then they stick to it. It's just, it's not for me. And I'm just
Yeah.
really exhausted seeing what feels like the same game over and over. Like, I've been
Well,
de
and-
facto boycotting Ubisoft for like a decade because they just don't make anything that I want to buy.
yeah. I mean, and to be fair, you don't have to buy anything Ubisoft either. They market to a specific person. So it's
Yeah.
I mean, some people like playing like a lot of those types of like collectathon games. That's why they exist. But, you know, for some people that want more depth or different types of depth or different types of style, there's other things for that.
Yeah.
I think, and that just proves the diversity of the market, which is good in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's good. That it's good to have games that you don't like, because guess what? That means I'm not specific to that type of thing, but I know there are a lot of people are, and that means that the market is spread out and people like video games in general or whatever, films in
Correct.
general, anything.
I think it's a very good thing that there are games that I don't like, because there's lots of different types of people. Never in a million years would I play a ranked competitive match of anything. But I'm glad that there are things out there for people who do. Like, you know, I'm glad that there are, you know, I was talking with someone a couple weeks ago and talking about like, oh, what games do you like? Blah, blah, blah. Dark Souls came up and he was just like, hate Dark Souls. Like, it's really bad. It's a bad video game. And I'm just like, okay, what makes you say that? I'm interested in hearing your perspective. And he's just like, the hitboxes, man. And I'm just like, okay, this is a fundamental schism. There's a canyon between us, and I don't know if we can bridge this gap. And then he was just like, yeah, well, you know, I'm like, top 400 in League of Legends, and I was like a professional esports commentator and like something. And I'm like, oh, of course you would value those kind of things if you're in this hyper competitive thing where like those margins matter.
Why did I immediately think of League when you started talking? You didn't even go there, and I was like, this guy's a leaguer, isn't he?
There's a type of person, and he was like, you know, like a professional commentator. Like, he was really in the scene. And there's a type of person for whom those kind of things really matter. They really care about balance. They really care about blah, 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 things that are related to competitive aspects and leaderboards and like how the algorithm works and matchmaking and like all of those things. And like, I get it. I understand that there is value, and I understand that there's a kind of person who would deeply invest themselves in it. It's just not me. Thank goodness.
It's a different type of gamer, but they're still gamers. It's just different type, because that's not me either. I don't like numbers. I am not a numbers person. So like when it deals with a lot of like ratios and whatnot, I'm like, okay, that's enough. That's quite enough. However, you know what's funny? This kind of leads into my last point. But you know what's funny is I found the more I look at one of my favorite like genres is fighting games. The more I look into that, the more I realize a lot of fighting game people, like the fighting game community, FGC for short, they love stuff like Dark Souls. They love it.
Oh yeah?
Because they love it for a different reason though. They love it for the difficulty. Because they're so used to top difficulty. Because that is the point of old school fighting games, one-on-one. You are facing a person who, that's like the highest difficulty you can go, is a person.
Exactly.
So they want it to be hard. Otherwise they're like, oh, this is... and that's fine. I don't play games like that. But I noticed that a lot of fighting game people, they love Sekiro. They're like, oh man, I love this.
That makes sense.
I love the parrying. I love the timing and everything. And I'm like,
the precision,
that sounds like fighting game words. Yeah. That sounds like fighting game words.
I've heard that comparison as well, because like a lot of FromSoft games care a lot about like spacing and positioning and reading your opponent. And so like there is a kind of somewhat surprising but natural overlap between like fighting game community sensibilities.
Yeah,
And
and I think
those kind of games.
that's awesome because that's a blend of genres, and then you find new people that are like, I didn't know you liked this game. Well, I didn't know you liked this, and I mean, it's just a very cool camaraderie that you start to see blend together with. I mean, this is not the only genres that do this with video games, but you see a lot of that stuff, and it's the same thing with everything. The same thing with films and everything. Now, last point, and it's probably going to be the shortest point but it's going to be probably the most hilarious point, is the ugly. We talked about the good. We talked about the bad. The ugly. Stuff that, why did this work? I'm going to throw out, you're probably already going to know this, but I'm going to throw out
I got one in the chamber.
Yeah, one of the biggest examples to me is Kingdom Hearts. Why did this work?
Interesting.
Why did this work? Yep.
So, wasn't expecting a Kingdom Hearts discussion.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts is really fascinating. When I'm trying to think of what age I was when that came out, because it was what, 2002?
We were like 13, 14, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So definitely a teenager. That game came out. I was the target audience. Kingdom Hearts 1 came out, and I was like, this is my shit. This is made for me. It has both the Lion King and also fucking Sid from Final Fantasy VI. Awesome. I was so on board with it. Like, I don't know why, but like it did. It worked on me. It tickled my brain. And it was like, these are two great tastes that taste great together. This is peanut butter and chocolate. And also maybe some poison, but I didn't realize it at the time.
You didn't taste it. Yeah, you didn't taste it.
I didn't taste the poison.
Neither did I.
It's funny because I talk about Kingdom Hearts 2 was my Star Wars Episode 1. Like, people talk about going into Star Wars Episode 1 and then leaving the theater and then just doing, like, there's the sad Charlie Brown, like, da, 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 da. Like, oh, man, I can't believe it. I had my hopes
Doesn't
up so
anybody know what Star Wars is all about?
God has forsaken us! Just like in a Charlie Brown Christmas special.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's just like, people came out of that just like devastated. And like, for some reason, the prequels have been getting a critical reevaluation. And people are like, no, I like them, actually. Clone Wars is a good movie. And I think those people have lost their fucking minds. But
I have lost my mind. Thank you.
Clone Wars is such dog shit. Anyways.
No,
Attack of the
fine.
Clones, not the show Clone Wars. The Attack of the Clones.
I know what you mean. Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying. Yes, I like it. I like it a lot.
I'm judging. That one's hard.
I judge
that
myself.
one's hard.
I judge myself.
Anyways,
but it's so much fun. I love it. I understand your frustration though, because I'm probably the only person in the Eastern Hemisphere who likes. Likes.
There are people who like it now.
Number 2 is their favorite, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely the pits. Anyways, that was like my moment of like almost a reckoning where it's just like, I didn't know that I could get my hopes up so high and then be disappointed this much. Like, I didn't know that I could be this crushed by a piece of media. Like, this is a new feeling that I'm experiencing, which is magnitude of the disappointment I have for Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh, you have no idea of the depth of your despair. You didn't play 3, did you?
At least I didn't play Kingdom Hearts 3, because that would,
you don't know the depth of your despair.
Yeah, that would have finished me off.
Yeah, here's the thing. When marketing goes from good to bad in a matter of how many games, and it's just like
300 games in 16 years or something between those two.
It was so good. And then it's like it worked against it. It's like it worked against itself because they built up 3. I remember when it came out, they built up 3 like it was the next big thing. It was the next big thing. It's like, guys, we're ending this. We're ending it the right way. You're going to love it. And we're all like, you know what? All right, I love it.
If you
because
hadn't
of the
built up
marketing.
a
Yeah.
powerful cynicism towards the Kingdom Hearts franchise by that point, I feel like that's kind of on you.
Well, and that's the thing. It was on a lot of people. Now, mind you, I had a bar, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot, type thing. But I wasn't like super excited like some people were. And if you generally like that game for what it was, good on you, because that game, it was the Metal Gear Solid 4 of of games like that. It was quite literally 90% or 75 to 90% like cutscene. And the cutscenes were long. And I'm like, why would you do this? You put all of this on here. But then I thought about it and I was like, of course they did this. Of course they did this. Because they built it up over years. They kept getting worse and worse and worse with each game. And then they got here and then everybody was surprised when they had this. And they're like,
we're talking about the franchise that has Organization 13 with members numbered 1 through 13. And you're like, well, how many people are in Organization 13? And the answer is at least 27.
Yes.
Fuck me.
Man. But at the same time, what was that? That was 2. 2 was like just, guys, it looks good. I like the look. I like that you're expanding. But 2 was like the final. That was at the end of 2. Because I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily like 2. Not as much as 1. Because 1 was, but I will also admit that 1 was very nostalgic for me too. So I'm like, I don't know where that line for me ends and begins of, okay, how much of this is nostalgia and how much of this was the game was actually pretty decent. But
totally. And
that
how much have I
had,
changed?
Yeah,
you know?
And how that influence had on 2 forward, 2 going forward. Because I'll tell you what, I also played the one on like the handheld one. I forget which one I played. I think it was Chain of Memories? I think that was the one I played.
That's one of the handheld ones.
Yeah, I think I played Chain of Memories. And I also played Dream Drop Distance. I think. Is it Dream Drop Distance with like the completely new characters? I think. Yeah, but that's the thing is, it goes off the rails and I'm one that likes
talk
going
about
off the rails.
The problem of console exclusivity. Like Kingdom Hearts has like 10 different games across like 7 different systems. Like they're on the PlayStation 2, they're on the Game Boy Advance, they're on the PSP, they're on the 3DS, they're on the PS4. Like the number of consoles you need to have to keep up with that franchise is
to play all of them.
Poisonous.
All of them are not on. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
That is probably the worst example, actually. Kingdom Hearts is probably one of the worst examples of that exclusivity. Because all the games, and I'm talking all of them, are on different things. All of them. Some of them are only on mobile.
Yep. Like different kinds of mobile. Like some of them were only on like flip phones. And they're gone now, but they've been ported to the new whatever.
Why? Why? Why would you do that?
Why make it so inaccessible? It seems so consumer hostile. I don't get it. What?
I noticed. I think that's a problem with Square Enix. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Square Enix has a problem with that. Like specifically, like all across the board. They have a problem with like exclusivity of weird stuff, like just putting it on something that nobody has and stuff like that. Yeah,
the N-Gage exclusive.
Yeah. Oh man, I had one of those too. But anyway,
really,
what was yours? That was mine, and that was a rabbit hole within itself. But what is yours?
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts is a deep ocean. Like there's an infinite amount to unpack.
The fountain
with
flows
that.
Deep and wide.
Yeah. So for me, I don't think I can talk about cynicism in media and like the profit motive behind art without talking about the Fantastic Beasts franchise. With absolutely the most cynical, artless, heartless, like wretched, shambling corpse of a franchise that exists. Like, it is. And like, I know that there are people who, when I bring it up, they're just like, oh, I watched the first one. It was okay. Like, I had fun. And it's like, yeah, I get that. As a whole, as a plan, as a marketing strategy, like, so toxic from top to bottom. Like, it is grotesque to me, genuinely. Like, it's not just that the movies are bad, which they are. They are also cynical and heartless, and I do mean like Heartless from Kingdom Hearts. Like, it's a whole thing. You have like a franchise, then it splits into the body and the soul, and then weirdly the soul without a body becomes a nobody, and then the heart without it's the opposite of what you think. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Anyways,
I played the games and I don't like thinking about it because I thought like it is confused. Talk to anybody who's a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. I'm talking, they love them, and they don't even know what's going on half the time. They don't know.
All you need to know is that everyone is either Sora or Xehanort. Every character that you meet, unless they are from Disney or Final Fantasy, they are Sora or Xehanort. That's all you need to know.
You just broke down the entire franchise, and I am not
cracked it wide open.
That. I'm not even. No, you think you're playing, but I don't. I generally
I'm being deadly serious.
Because that's what ended up happening. Is everybody is either Sora or the bad guys. They're a clone.
They're a doppelganger. They're being possessed. They're
an
heartless.
An aspect of them. Yeah.
Everyone is one of those two characters.
It's wild. It's wild.
Exhausting.
But anyway,
the Fantastic Beasts franchise is like it's difficult for me to like even talk about the scope of it. So first of all, the pitch that they had was Dr. Dolittle and the Rise of Hitler. That's where they started.
Oh wow, never heard of that one.
I that's what it is. Like,
no, I mean, I've never heard of it explained that way. Like
you got Newt Scamander going on wacky animal adventures, and then also the rise of Wizard Hitler happening in the background. Those are two great tastes that taste great together. Let me tell you.
Hitler #1, mind you. Right. #1. So,
but also like every part of that franchise is just like odious. Where it's first of all like the casting, they really knew how to pick them. They had Johnny Depp and Ezra Miller.
Ouch! I just noticed that.
Yeah,
Ew.
Pretty brutal. And so they're like trying to find a way forward. They keep refusing to kill off Ezra Miller, which is weird because it feels like he dies in every movie.
I thought he died in the latest one.
Yeah, he gets better. He's fine. They recast Johnny Depp, but they kept Ezra Miller. And then what are they going to do in future movies? I don't know. Are there going to be future movies? I don't know. So flawed premise. Flawed premise.
It's very
and
directionalist.
They, from the start, decided that this was going to be a 5-movie franchise, a 5-movie arc.
That's your first mistake. I hate when people do that. I hate when studios do
which again has real like universal dark monster.
Yeah, I hate
whatever.
when studios do that. I hate when any studio does that. I hate it.
Really presumptuous to just say like, no, we're coming out of the gate swinging. The Harry Potter franchise itself is also pretty rocky these days. But that came out before J.K. Rowling outed herself as a bigot.
That's before all the controversy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But they do stick to the sinking ship. They do continue to double down on it. And they've just got lots of bad people involved in this franchise. The movies are just flat out badly made in a way that's like almost difficult to describe, like the multitude of their failings. And they're like weirdly mean-spirited they don't respect the characters. They don't respect the fiction. I'm exhausted at every level by these movies. They are like really some of the worst offenders when it comes to like non-plot plot twists. They constantly are engaging in like character assassination of their own characters. The fact that Queenie, who is this like sweet bumbling ditzy character in the first film, is just like, I will join the fascists in the second film, like, is fucking astounding. And then in the third film, she's just like, I'm sorry. And everyone's like, okay. And they're just fine with it. Like, wild. The way that they treat the only good character in the film, which is the Muggle character, Kowalski, like, he is so clearly the only person who's having fun in the entirety of these movies. And they like the things they do to him just suck. Like, it's just really, I'm genuinely at a loss for words. I need you to interrupt me and derail this, because like I am so frustrated by these on every level. Like,
bro,
the
bruh.
bruh.
Let me rap with you one time, okay?
Yeah.
I'm 95% there with you.
Ooh.
But I have on a different perspective though. A lot of the things that you said, I'm like, I thought about it. I was like, ew. Like, guys, you see what he's saying to you, right? Because you guys have been acting that way like the entire time. Right?
The box office is reflecting what I'm saying. These are not popular
that's
movies.
what I was about to go into that. That's part of what I was about to get into. Okay, for this franchise. Now, mind you, my wife loves this franchise because she just loves Harry Potter in general. Sorry, yes and no, because I know why they do. But obviously, like, their standards are not like ours, and that's fine. They have different perspectives and everything like that, because honestly, they're not looking at like how it looks and everything and how the story plays out. They want to see what happens to their favorite characters. Now, to that end, my two favorite characters were Queenie and Kowalski. Because I was like, why don't you just make the story about both of them? Because that is cool how they're navigating this world and that makes it lighter, but it still has urgency because they're technically still not supposed to be together, but it makes it lighter because those are two, in my opinion, the best in most. I mean,
I think they're the best performances, pretty hands down.
And what they do with them is weird. And I'm like, especially Queenie, because I liked Queenie. I liked that she was like light in the movie. And I was like, you know what? I like her because she's funny because she's still competent. She's still a competent witch. But she's not like all the other people that are being serious around her. She's just like, you know what? I just like baking and stuff like that and everything like that. And I'm like, that's fine.
Hey, remember from the first movie? When Kowalski is introduced, he's like, hey, I'm passionate about baking. I love baking. I've been working on it for years. It's really hard. And then Queenie is just like, cool. And she literally moves her hand and does a better job than he could ever do, and like instantly, and just invalidates his existence like right in front of him. And it's basically exactly like the scene from I, Robot. Will Smith is just like, wow, robot artist, just instantly, doing all that stuff. Like, pretty cool. And it's just, but like, it's cool and everyone likes it and everyone's like real into the fact that she's just like invalidated his like skill set and experience and taste.
I would agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that she just likes because she doesn't hold it over him. That's the thing. How she interacts with him, I like. Because she's like, no, I like how you do stuff. And it actually tastes good and everything. He's like, oh, and she's like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, this is cool. I like that you do things how you do them, and you actually like to do it just like I do. And I'm like, See, it would be different if she reacted like, "See, look at how great magic is," type thing.
Like,
But I'm like,
yes, it would be. I'll give you
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
also, to me, it is the fact that the movie is never like, oh, this person doesn't have magic, but he has skills and knowledge and
Well,
experience, and that's valuable.
that's where I agree with you because they don't emphasize enough of him as a valuable character.
No.
Otherwise, he is literally just the humor. Now, mind
Yeah.
you, some of the
He's
stuff
just
he does
furniture in the later movies.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. But yeah, I'm like, you don't, which is why it goes back to my original idea of make the movie franchise about him and Queenie just interacting with everybody around
Sure.
them. I'm sorry.
Make it about literally anyone else other than Newt Scamander.
No. Oh, yeah, well, yes and no. Like, don't make it about literally anybody. Because I was about to say, though, really don't. I don't think Newt, for me, is a great, like, main character to follow. Because
Extremely not.
it's I don't think he's I don't think he's very likable. And I get it. I get his character, but I wouldn't make him the main character. Which means I'm like, yeah. I would switch a whole bunch of people around, but that's just the characters. The world itself is cool if you guys kind of gave a shit. Like, it's like, I like the exploration a little bit, especially when it comes to like, oh, this is how America does that. I'm like, why don't you go to the... Nobody really cares about stuff on the street. Go to the American school. That's what everybody cares about. No, you just mentioned it. Nobody really... I'm like, guys, you're talking to people. Like, you're talking to an audience that grew up on the original ones, and the original ones take place 90% of the time in the schools, and the stuff around the schools, and the stuff surrounding it. Why would anybody care about the government? How the government works?
Like, I get, like, you want to do something different. I do. Like,
yeah.
But first of all, Newt Scamander is one of the worst protagonists in to lead a movie franchise, simply because I dare you to name a more passive main character. He does nothing. Yeah. He doesn't go out and enforce change in the world. He's always just standing there, and then stuff happens to him.
He's very defensive. He's always plays the defensive. He never
not
has
a good quality for a
that's what I'm saying. You're right, but in my opinion, he's always playing on the defensive in terms of his passion. He's like, no, I gotta save these people. I gotta save these animals and stuff. But he has to always come to them. Now, in the last movie, he kind of is a little bit more proactive, but not enough to push it far. And I'm like, and by that time, you have other more interesting characters come in, and they don't even come in for very long. And I'm just like, come on, guys, you can do better than this. But at the same time, I kind of don't want you to, because then the movie would be an hour longer than it already is.
I've never seen a movie franchise where the main character wanted to be there less. Like,
that is a good way of putting it.
He's unrelated to the action. Like, it's constantly like the end of the first movie ends with Johnny Depp, Wizard Hitler, like coming up and being just like, I will remember you, zoologist who just happened to be here. And he's just like, I don't know how I got here. I'm kind of confused as to why I'm here at all, what my relationship is to things. There was a magical creature, I'll give you that. But other than that, I don't know why you're targeting me as the okay.
Yeah. By the way, can we talk about, mention that I think that was the worst? That I think that was the reveal. The reveal, the half of the reveal that Colin
Farrell.
Colin Farrell was the bad guy, which I thought was cool until they changed him completely to Johnny Depp, and I was like, okay, this is actually uncool now.
With one of the most embarrassing character designs that I've ever seen in a live-action film.
I like the idea that Colin Farrell was the bad guy in his suave way. Like, he was just the guy.
It's way better.
I think that would have been a better choice. Because I was like, see, that's cool. Because he, basically the entire time, he was competent. until
Yeah.
he turned into. I was like, that's not fair. That's not fair to Johnny Depp. That's not fair to Colin Farrell. That's not fair to anybody. Why would you do this? But they had. But I feel that the studio marketing was like, no, big name, get him in there, do it now.
I
And
love the
was
part
like,
where Colin Farrell is just like, my name is Khan.
You're never gonna stop doing that. But yeah, I mean, I completely get it, dude. It's to me, it doesn't make me angry. It just makes me disappointed the further on it goes. It has some really good ideas, especially
I disagree.
World building.
I don't think that there's almost any idea that's worth exploring in this. And like you're talking about,
Really?
like
Oh.
they go globe trotting and they visit these other countries and do stuff. Guess what? All they ever do across all three films is visit prisons. We constantly are seeing different ways that wizards incarcerate, torture, and kill each other, usually extrajudicially. Like the American prison where they're just like, see, it looks like you're bad guys. We're going to take you to our execution room and you're scheduled for execution instantly. And
that
no
was
part
cool,
of that
but
made it
that
seem
made-
like it was
yeah.
the bad guy's plan
Exactly.
or like it was outside of the normal. That's just how they do it. Like their idea of American wizards are just like, we just love executing people. Which, I mean, not that far off, but like, Jesus fuck.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing that I'm talking about. Like, there's cool ideas, but like I said before, just how, and I know I'm gonna make people maybe upset by this, but you know how in like the older film, the Harry Potter universe and everything, like the Ministry of Magic and all the government stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, if you think about it, that's very minimal. Like, he had one book kind of dedicated to that, and everything about it was like, this is dumb. This is actually dumb. And not dumb for the audience, but the characters are like, I don't want to be here. This is so messed up. Everything about this is weird. All this kind of stuff like that. And I was like, okay, because it's not about like how the world, you're going too far out. This is one of those times where I'm like, okay, you're going too far out with the lore. Bring it back. Bring it back, because it's not all about this. They don't need to worry about all of this. They need to worry about this right here. Now, maybe you can bring elements from other work, but you don't need to explain everything like that, but then not explain it. Because like you said with the whole American execution thing, I was like, oh, come on, man. Like, where is this coming from? Why is this happening now? And I'm like, okay. And I know why. It's because of the main characters. The main characters, one of them is a government agent. The other one is this. Everybody is so adult. And I'm like, okay, you can tell a different story. Like I keep going back to the two main characters that are just regular old people.
Yeah.
One of them is from the wizarding world and one of them is not. And how they interact and how their love, if you want to say that, is affecting everything around them. That's, to me, that's a lot cooler. When one of them gets involved in something and then they're like, it's always about them two in some way, shape, or form, and them and their normalcy and how they deal with all these weird things in both worlds, in both sets of worlds. Like how they were talking about in the first movie. I thought it was really cool how they were talking about, it's like, yeah, I just came back from, like, I participated in, like, the war. And then one of the coolest, like, I mean, not coolest, but one of the most interesting bits of dialogue from Newt is about, he's like, yeah, I was there too and everything. We were just doing different stuff. And I was like, more about that, please. You don't have to go into, show it, but I'm like, this is normal talk and how he can't get a loan because of blah blah blah, and I'm like, that's more interesting than all this stuff like that. But like I said, it was so overblown by the time like the end of the first movie happened. Now mind you, I will go back to saying I don't think this franchise has direction, like, at all, which goes to what you were saying is studio nonsense of, we just want these elements in there. Stick them in there.
Yeah.
But we don't even have a good script. Stick them in there. Stick them in there. That's what they're
It's
doing.
not just that they don't have a good script, it's that it's impossible to have a good script because the directive is so wild. Like, what if there was a franchise where it's like, okay, you know all the people who wrote Harry Potter's textbooks? Let's make a bunch of movie about the people who wrote Harry Potter's textbooks. And then each person will get a single movie, and then there'll be kind of a through line in the background about these other political things that are happening. And it's just like, still not a great idea, but better. But no, the fact that they just decided to stick with this milquetoast motherfucker, and I want to be clear that like I don't think he's a bad character because he's neurodivergent, and like obviously I care a lot about representation and all that stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, but that's not what we're talking about.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I think this is just bad art. Like, I think that like the Harry Potter franchise is become poisoned. Like, I do not support them financially. When I do these like bad watch parties, we get a couple friends together and I pirate it. I do not want to be giving them any money. I think that like it's problematic on a lot of different fronts, and it's bad art. Like, it's really astoundingly bad art. Some of the worst that's being made in our modern cinema landscape.
When we bring it back to our original idea for this entire episode, which is marketing, that has some of the. This is like the weird. This is like it's like almost not a parallel, but like an antithesis to Kingdom Hearts, where it's has so much money behind the marketing for it.
Yeah,
so much money behind the marketing for it. They're like, it's the new. For the latest movie that came out, it was the new. Now, mind you, they changed up a lot of stuff and they thought it was going to save it. But at this current point, nobody knows the direction of the next movie.
No.
Nobody knows. Because it doesn't even have, I don't even think it has like a director or anything. They just said it's going to happen. WB has to say that.
It feels like the state of the franchise is up in the air and we don't know if we'll get another one. And they kind of ended a little bit more final so that if they only make 3, then they only make 3.
Well,
but like,
it's funny because I just recently read something yesterday that WB, about like the whole HBO Max thing of like them just wiping things off the map from them.
Yeah,
which
sucks.
Yeah, it does. It does super suck. But that is, I don't want to go into that completely though. But what they did say is they're investing. Well, they, as in the main guy, said they want to invest in. Now, this you can take this however you want to take it. I generally take it badly, but they're like, we're going to invest in our franchises that make the money. And we're talking obviously money in the past. So, Harry Potter, which is like WB exclusive, they want to invest in that. He said that out loud, like the franchise. Yeah. Now, mind you, this could be very, very good or very bad because that means they could have money and put the people that they want in that position to do the work that they want to do. Star Wars is just starting to do this. But so it can work. But most people, including myself, are probably thinking, oh, this isn't good. Because now the studio has a death grip on these franchises. And they're probably going to end up ruining them for a while. Like how Disney did with Star Wars. Like in its beginning phases of reboots. And it's like, you guys don't care about this. You guys just want to make that money.
Exactly. Like it's... Again, so deeply cynical, where it just feels like, the only thing that we care about is making a profit. And to make a profit, we'll make whatever already worked. We don't particularly care about art. We don't particularly care about what the art says, what it says, in the film, what it says outside the film, what it says about us. And, like, I get it. You're business people and you're looking for a surefire payday. And this seems like a safe bet. But, like, why does it seem like a safe bet? It seems like a safe bet because people cared about the thing. Like, they always seem to forget about that, like, you have to make something that people like for them to want to have more of it.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters
it's
is a franchise on the strength of exactly one film.
yeah. But
You know,
and when you don't have anybody who worked on that one film like involved deeply in the next stuff, what do you think is going to happen? Like, people are going to miss the point. And that happens a lot. It happens in the good and bad ways. Like a recent one that's happening right now, that's happening at the end of the week, as per of when we're recording this, is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. They're marketing the hell out of that shit. Why? Because the first one blew them out of the water in more ways than one. Not just money, but popularity. Yep. Why? Because they made a bet on it. And they're like, I don't know if this is going to be good. I mean, do black people really want to come to the movies and watch this? And then, and then it made like over $1 billion, and it had completely a whole bunch of rewatches and stuff at the theater, mind you. And, and then Disney was the Disney company. I'm not talking about the Disney people. I'm talking about the company, the gears. They were like, wow, we did not expect this. And it's like, because you had people that cared about the property working on it. You had like directors who cared. You had people involved that cared. You like, and a lot of new faces too. A lot of not like all up in, Idris Elba, all over the place. He wasn't even in that movie. He had a lot of new faces. And what happened? So of course everybody's going to be like, people already bought out half like the pre-order tickets and everything like that. How about you do the same thing, bring it around town with like, I don't know, Harry Potter? You realize that you have some good stuff, especially back in the old days. At least they were fun kids movies. Like fun kids, like young adult movies. At least they were like that, and they were popular. Negating all of the controversy. I'm talking about just the films themselves.
Yeah.
So, but you had people that cared.
Totally.
People that even aren't here anymore. Like Alan Rickman, for example. He cared about that shit. So he put his acting chops into it. And what do you know? He's one of the most popular characters in the franchise. Even now. So why would you half-ass this stuff and expect it to be... No, the marketing's there. It'll work itself. It'll do itself. It'll make money on its own.
The modern stuff feels extremely half-assed and just like...
And you know what's funny?
Putting the cart before the horse.
The general audience knows it.
I think so.
The general audience may be like, oh, this is all right, but they're not having repeat viewings. They're not buying out that shit. No, some of the stuff, even when it comes to my wife, she loves, she and one of her best friends, they love the movies. And that's great. I know why. It's great too. But a lot of it has to do with like the cute animals. A lot of it has to do with that kind of stuff. And a select few characters that they follow because of, certain things that are, preference to them personally. But as they're not like, and that's what's confusing about this franchise is they're making plushies and stuff of these characters and stuff, but you're not marketing it to kids. So who are these for? Like,
it's just
what are you marketing for?
I just really like the part in the new one where like they go to like a murder execution dungeon. And they're like bones that are being spat up and they're covered in slime. And then Newt Scamander does like a funny little dance.
Yeah. Who are these for? Who are these movies for?
What a fucking wild tone.
Well, all the movies are like that though, because they have some like horrific stuff happen. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. Like we were just talking about it. The execution. And I was like, this is cool, but why is this in the movie? Why is this in the movie? And I was like, where is this coming from? What do you want? What do you want for this franchise? And even the newest one, which has really horrible stuff, has like within the first 5 minutes of the movie, it has like animal endangerment and animal murder and stuff, and everybody's like, whoa,
constantly killing animals in these movies.
And I'm like, whoa, all you people that love cute animals, you love this? This? And I was like, okay, I get it. I totally get it. I get it. the people that love like the Harry Potter franchise and stuff, I'm on you guys' side. But I want better quality stuff because I've seen that the studio can do it. They just refuse to do it because you keep buying the stuff that they sell to you, and now it's not working. So they're like, oh, well, I guess this doesn't work anymore. I'm like, man, screw y'all. Like, you know better than that. How about you just, stop placating people and start actually, like, do what you did with all these other things. Because you see, like we were talking about before, you see it makes money. You see it becomes popular when you do things right. Even talking about Star Wars, Andor. I've been watching that show. It has nothing to do with Star Wars. It's like a completely different thing. However, it's pretty good. I was wow. It's like antithesis of what has been going on.
I only want Star Wars where Yoda doesn't show up. Like, I do not like it. I'm so sick of fan service and pandering.
Well, and that's the thing is, when you get rid of all that fan service, and here's the thing, Andor, believe it or not, does have fan service in it, but it's fan service that it's fan service that has nothing to do with anything that people are used to, because it does have fan service from like some of the books and stuff like that, but that's it. But it still feels like the Star Wars universe. However, it's not the regular feel that everybody wants with lightsabers and stuff, but it still feels like it, and it has a point to say. It actually has a point. And
it's so exhausting to me on the marketing side, and this is very much a business decision, where people, where the money people are like, what do people like about this franchise? What about Star Wars touched their hearts? And they're like, that's right. Seeing things you recognize, that's the only thing that matters, is just like this incredibly surface level read,
It's very shallow.
It's like, it's poisonous to me. Like, I'm a fan of the Silent Hill video games, which is absolutely the worst fandom to be a part of. They're absolute garbage.
You want to bet?
They're really up there.
We'll have an episode just on fandoms, guys.
We will. We'll like the Silent Hill fandom is fucking wild in ways that I guarantee you do not know.
I don't know,
but it's
I'd be looking forward to that.
The quintessential thing, if you know anything about Silent Hill, is that you know about Pyramid Head. Why? Because he was like this really interesting character design from Silent Hill 2, and he was really important to the story, and he meant something.
Not even 1, 2.
And then
not even 1.
Yeah, no. And then they just kept bringing him back. But he's a character that only makes sense within the context of that one story.
I've said
and
that
they
before.
turned him into a mascot. And by turning him into a mascot, they poisoned that well.
You diminish his importance.
Yeah,
you diminish
exactly.
The fact that,
he just becomes a caricature.
And here's the thing about all of that. Because you can like characters. I'm not saying you can't like characters, you can't latch onto them, you can't do
I'm saying you can't like characters.
Everything.
Don't like characters. That's the problem, somehow.
I have a point.
Okay, sorry.
You can do that, but I think nowadays people, even the general audience, I think is getting a lot smarter, a lot quicker. Because yes, you still have, and I'm not saying the general audience is stupid, because I'm part of the general audience. But they're starting to figure it out a lot quicker now about how the wheels turn, about how the gears in the system work, especially nowadays, especially in America. Let's be honest, because they're just like, oh, this is so cash cow. Like, they use popular terms to describe what we're describing, but they're describing the same thing. And like I said, they start to fall off a lot. And then the response from the studio and the bureaucracy of it is, oh, people don't like this anymore. Completely drop it. And everybody's like, what? But that is a classic studio response, because it doesn't make as much money, even as much money. If it doesn't make any money, whatever. But if it doesn't make even enough money, then it's like, nope, drop it. It's not worth it anything anymore. Until later on, possibly years down the line, like somebody, an independent or a director who says, I want to make this because it's a passion project. There's
Yep.
that word again, passion. And the studio is like, all right, give him like a quarter. Give him a quarter of what we used to put in there. And they're like, and the director's like, I can work with this. Watch what I can do. And then it becomes this, like something that's not even flashy, but still very much a big part of whatever it is, the franchise or whatever.
Mhm.
And people latch onto it because they're like, this is what we've been wanting. That's what we've been waiting for. And they're like, oh, wow. And then they're so surprised when they're like, I didn't know people still like this. Why did we drop it? Why do we not? I'm like, they shoot themselves in the foot. Like
I think a genuine truism about franchises in general is that, like, think of all the big franchises that are out there, and almost all of them started out as small, weird, indie auteur projects about just a group of people who had passion and wanted to do something with it. And I mean, Star Wars is kind of the obvious one.
Yeah, that's the obvious
but also just like
if you think about a lot of stuff,
like is everything where it's just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre made with like $5, Evil Dead made with like $5.
They made $3.
I know, like all of these like classic franchises in there are low budget, scrappy underdog things where it's
you just look at you look at sci-fi too, like.
Yeah.
Some like sci-fi horror even. Like The Thing or like that's one of my favorites, or like Planet of the Apes or something, like the old school one and stuff like that. Or the first one, not like the whole thing that they did, but even then. And then but I look at that like you know what is funny? It's funny that I even mentioned that because Planet of the Apes is a classic example of people of what I just said. Of like people running a franchise into the ground, and then years go by, and then somebody's like, I have a passion for this. I want to do like what, and then they reboot it, and it becomes, in my opinion, one of the best trilogies to come out in years. And then the studio's like, I didn't know people like this, and now see what they're doing. I thought they ended it perfectly. It's fine. What did I just see? Like. Maybe a week ago, they're making a fourth one, and I'm like,
of course,
why? No,
and it's
don't
just this
do it again.
Endless cycle of like smart money people who know what to do, and it's
business.
Always just do the same shit again. Like that's the
bureaucracy.
It's the only idea that's ever had by the marketing and money people is just do the same shit again.
Because it makes money. It's not because of any other reason. It's just because it makes money.
Yeah.
And
that is the cycle. There's some truth to it. And it's not impossible to create art within those circumstances. But it's also like, and I'm not even that cynical about franchises. I sound a lot more cynical than I really am. I think that in all of what we've been talking about, I think it's really a testament to the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they have such a incredibly high hit to miss ratio. Like a lot of it's bland and a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people chafe against it. I think almost all of those do have heart, do have art in them in a way that a lot of these other franchises don't. Like they care in a different way. And I think that it really needs to be respected that they have gone this far, that they have created something this big because they're willing to take risks and they're willing to do weird stuff. They're willing to do Guardians of the Galaxy. They're willing to do Black Panther. They're willing to not just be in the exact same
formula.
Rut in the way
even though the formula exists. They acknowledge that the formula exists, but even then, they still try to, as much wiggle room as the formula gives you, they try to do different things. And it still works. It's still an appeal, which is why people say, I'm one of those people that's like, superhero fatigue. Yeah, I get it. Believe me, I
Definitely.
get it. However,
especially with Phase 4 and all the TV shows, like it's just too much to keep up with.
It's too much. It's too much. And that's my biggest thing with a lot of stuff. It's too much. If it's too much exposure, that's when I start losing interest. And I love some of these things, but eventually marketing gets out of hand and it's just too much. And I'm like, I don't have enough time. So I have to choose wisely. And sometimes the stuff that I really was looking forward to starts to be like, you know what? I'm not as excited anymore.
Totally. I still haven't seen...
I'm not as excited anymore. Yeah.
I still haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder. And I thought that I was totally in the pocket for that. And
I watched it. I watched it because it's on Disney Plus, and I'm like, okay, I'll just watch it. But even then, when I clicked on it, I was like, I'll watch this. Yeah. And I completely forgot it existed for a while because, like, I was like, why? I didn't want. This may sound mean, but I'm like, why does this exist? Why did they make a fourth one? Ragnarok was fine.
Ragnarok was good.
You did a pretty decent job with Ragnarok. I got it. But I understand you have to keep going, but and I'm like, okay. And I watched it and I thought it was all right. I thought it was like cool. All right, but this is not me. And it's the same thing I said earlier about Doctor Strange 2. I watched it and me and my wife, we went to the movie theater and watched it, and we're like, it's really fun to watch on the big screen when, blaring on like in your face. But then I watched it again on Disney Plus on my computer screen, and I was like, now stepping back a little bit, this is okay. All right. Yeah,
it's okay.
And it's not like me being mean. I still love like Doctor Strange and everything. I just like the what you were saying before. The hype is kind of poisoned me a little bit, and I was like, now I have hype for something current coming up, Wakanda Forever, but there's a lot of passion behind that though. And I mean, here's the thing: is that hits on a different level. Yeah, it's different. It's not just another thing. And people are gonna have movies like that. People are gonna have games like that. They're gonna have things that they personally latch onto. So, but
here's something that I'll say that I think like does show meaningful progress just in like the world of entertainment. Black Panther 1 came out, and it was just like, this is we've had black superheroes in cinema before, but never like this, never a big budget, never a main event, never a headliner in the way that Black Panther is. And now Black Panther 2 can come out and just be like, yeah, well, it's kind of another superhero movie.
It's allowed to be that. I mean, the first one was allowed to be that too, but
I think it's a genuine mark of progress that it's not an event in the same way that the first one.
It's not an event in the same way. It still is an event, but for a different reason, and for a much more somber reason. But it's not like the event of the century, where it's like, oh my goodness, this is a thing.
This is like,
I completely agree with you on that.
To me, this is like one of the signs of progress. One of the signs of like the success of representation and the success of diversity, like actually succeeding, is things not being special anymore.
Well,
and like it sounds cynical. It sounds like I'm being shitty, but I'm not. I'm being like really serious when I say that. Like, no, I'm happy for that.
Yeah, it's coming from a black man. I agree with you though, because a lot of the stuff I have to keep to myself. I find a lot of the time, because I'm like, I'm not allowed to feel like I'm not allowed to criticize, like, quote unquote black shows or actors or actresses.
Sure, I understand.
And it's one of those situations. And I'm not saying that I don't have love when I see. So that's why I love Idris Elba, man. And I'm like,
he's great.
Oh, man, he needs to get more stuff. More different types of stuff.
He needs to be a headliner more. That's part of why I was so mad at the third modern Star Trek movie, Because he's the headliner villain, and they put him in shitty makeup for most of it, and he just like,
oh boy,
he's just not a character. Like fuck.
You're getting into another. You're getting into another like argument that we have. This is like another thing about Soul, which I love that movie. I love Soul, but that has even a problem of, oh my goodness, you didn't. You put black character into another cuter character to sell, and it was merchandise. It was marketing. That's why they did it. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I understand why you did it, because you did it with Princess and the Frog. I understand why you did it. So it might have not have been super personal, but Disney, stop it. You know better than that. You stop.
I agree.
Because you can't. You do it for all these other characters, but you have to do it with this. They don't turn Rapunzel from Tangled into a salamander at any point in time. I don't know how the show is, so maybe they do. But they don't do none of that.
The odds that she gets turned into a chameleon are not zero.
Yeah, but every single time, it's always the super tropey or they turn us into something. And I'm like, come on, guys. You know better than that. You need to stop. And it's a thing. It's like, but that goes into a completely different discussion. We're winding down. We are
winding down.
Yeah, this is the point of what we're trying to, or at least one of the points that we're trying to say is, how am I supposed to say this in a way that is not like damning? But marketing is controllable. Control the marketing. And I'm talking to the audience. Control it with your money.
You are not immune to marketing. All of us are impacted by marketing and market forces. And that's just a fact of life. And it's inescapable. And it does work. And
you do it yourself. You do it yourself.
Absolutely. I don't have to be as excited about the Resident Evil 4 remake as I am. But I am.
And word of mouth is marketing. They do it on purpose.
And, people deserve to get paid. Artists deserve to get paid. It's not that I'm saying that people shouldn't be making money from this. It's not that I'm saying that this isn't a business or it shouldn't be a business necessarily. But
money shouldn't have the ruling, say in a lot of what happens with art. And a lot of what people say is art.
Value art, value passion, value these things that are maybe not obvious. Seek out other kinds of media that maybe you wouldn't necessarily do. If you only look at the world of movies that you see in trailers or that is directly marketed to you, I don't blame anyone for being deeply cynical about it. But there is so much more than that. We haven't talked anything about movies that aren't these kind of major market budget things. There's a lot of art that's happening.
That is another podcast that we're going to get into, though, because you have stuff like A24 and all.
Absolutely.
I was even thinking about video games. This is why indies are so important.
Yeah.
Yes, they don't have a lot of money or people behind them. And they may not all be your cup of tea. Yeah, they might not all be your cup of tea, because I'm the first person to say that. However, I know how very important they are, and some of that stuff is awesome. Awesome concepts. That it's just different, and different is good. And you dig into that, and then it may not be your cup of tea, but it gives you other ideas for you to branch out. And then you know what? We have more artists to go around, and more different viewpoints, and more people making stuff
and
that you can consume.
And sometimes you just got a little guy. This is a fucked up little guy, and he's just like, I got an idea. I'm going to make a video game. And it turns into this wild runaway success. This small little nothing project explodes and turns into a new genre,
Minecraft.
Inspires other people. Minecraft, The Binding of Isaac.
Oh, yes.
Vampire Survivors. All of these, itty bitty nothing projects.
Well, what's the one that you keep telling?
Catch fire.
What's the one that you keep telling me about? Like the RPG that's about like the guy and his many voices in his head being the powers.
Disco Elysium,
Disco
not from a
Elysium.
huge studio, not
No, but
quite
that-
an indie production, but like so full of ideas and heart and passion.
It is so different from anything that I've
Yeah.
ever seen. And I'm like, now, mind you, it is very specific, but even me, and I'm a guy on style. I love style in video games. And I was like, okay, all right, this is like a comic book. This is like a graphic novel, and it's such an interesting idea. I can't believe anybody thought of this. And that's what I thought. That's what I thought as I looked at it and I played it and stuff.
Yeah.
Who thought of this? And
Like-
I couldn't think of this. This is not how my brain works, but I was so fascinated by it. I was like,
Yeah.
who thought this was cool? I mean, like I said, who thought this was a good idea? And not saying that is a bad thing. Who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah.
And that's not an insult whatsoever.
we all have that piece of media that before we found it, we didn't know we wanted it, that challenged our idea of what art could be. I mean, I remember being like, 10 years old and playing Final Fantasy VII and just being like, before this, video games were Sonic the Hedgehog, and now they can be this. They can be something totally different, so totally bigger and more complex, and I can get different things out of them. And I didn't know they could be that. And that art, that passion, that thing that challenges you, that changes what you think art can be, even if it's something pulpy and popular and goofy, if it's a Star Wars, if it's a, whatever, if it's a Kingdom Hearts, say what you will about Kingdom Hearts, that game does have passion behind it. And those rarely come from the big budget marketing things. When people complain about like the AAA studios or the big movie franchises, I feel like they're rarely complaining about the things themselves, and they're complaining about like the trends and the motivations.
They're complaining about the wheels turning. They're complaining about the gears and how that drives things to be not what. And I'm not saying people want what they want. I mean, people don't want what they want, but it drives it to be bland. It drives it to be not what it's supposed to be. And to a lot of people, the reason why they're so passionate about their complaining is because it feels like it's so simple. It's such a simple fix.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just try.
Yeah. All you have to do is care.
I was like, all you have to do is care. I'll imagine so many of these. EA is a classic example of this. And this is my final thing before we end. But EA is a classic example of things that frustrate me. And I don't talk about a lot of frustrating things like that make me actually angry to the point of like, oh man, I could go on forever. Because that's Adam. Adam is the haterade stand.
That used to be me. I've matured. I've grown.
Yes. He only opens it once a day.
College Adam was a wellspring of venom.
College Adam, he opened it 4 times a week. But now he only opens it once a month. Once every 2 months, possibly.
I'm improving.
So, yeah, he's improving. But even then, I mean, like, I've grown from there, too, where I have things that I'm like, you know what? I need to be passionate about my dislike of this because I feel like this is a problem. And one of those things, at least with gaming, is how EA does its marketing and does its management of its games and its popular one of my favorite franchises is the Battlefield franchise. EA owns that. And you know what they do? They cheat people, like literally cheat people out of their money. And I've been a victim of it. And I was like, when I look back at it, I was like, why did I do this? Why did I buy this off of the game store? Why did I do this? This is so cheap. Why would you do this? And EA's like, because you do it.
Yeah,
that's why
because you will
doing it. I mean, everybody remembers when Battlefront 2 came out. And it was literally, unequivocally, pay to win. How did everybody feel about that? Because I know how I felt. And then you know what happened? Years later, when they were basically ending the service, like ending the live service of the game. Oh, it's super popular now. Why? Because you got rid of the stuff that you didn't need to have it in there in the first place.
That's
And it was
true,
just like,
but also, like, that hasn't gone away. Like, it's not like we won the war, you know? It's
oh no, they just do it. No, they do it with other games. Apex Legends, guys. Really? Loot boxes?
I mean,
are we still doing
you're
this?
talking about, like, games where it kind of makes sense to have a loot box. What about fucking Middle-earth Shadow of War, where it has loot boxes for a single-player game? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Dead Space 3 having, like, microtransactions to, like, purchase currency and stuff? It's just like...
Oh, man.
And
it's so embarrassing.
They don't go away because they make so much stinking money. Because you buy them.
Yep.
And, like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yes.
I don't want to be just, like, the vote with your wallet. But, like, care about what you...
To a certain extent, no. I mean, I will be on... You can hop on my back, and I will carry you that way. Because I will be that guy. Please vote with your wallet, guys. I'm not saying, oh, man. I mean, because then, you know, it starts to become... Oh, well, you have money, and you can just buy whatever you... I'm like, no, let's not do that. Mm-hmm. However, when these gears move, they move because of money.
We're not talking about individuals. We're talking about the system.
Yes, the system. Thank you.
The power.
That's the best word. Yeah. Because, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing that doesn't like you. That's the thing that doesn't look at you as an individual. It doesn't look at the general audience. They really don't look at the general audience as people. They look at it as numbers. Yeah. Do you guys really feel you know, good about yourselves when the company's like, oh, you'll pay for it? They treat you literally like money pits, like, oh, you'll pay for it. They're stupid. Because that's what a lot of the system does. And there is evidence, like actual written down evidence that you can look at companies, heads of investors and stuff that have nothing to do with the art process and anything. They just throw their money at it, and they just look at it as an investment. I'm not saying that being an investor is bad, but I am saying that if you want to, because like I said, you can control the system a little bit. It's not hard. It may be hard for like FOMO reasons, like I don't want to miss out, but that comes from control issues. Yeah. But because people will be like, I just need to get it because everybody else has it. I'm like, I jumped off that train a long time ago because I ended up being poor for no reason. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy what I like to buy. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah.
And what do you know? Trends start to change when enough people do that. First it's 3 people, then it's 5, then it's 100, then it's, 1,000, then it's a whole, genre of people that say, we like this kind of stuff more. And you keep giving us this, so we're just going to purchase stuff from this. And a lot of this is indie game stuff. So the companies are like, And then eventually somebody inside the system who has a passion for it says, I have the ability to do this. And I want to make something like this. And I didn't know people cared about this much like I did. So, and then they go to their bosses and say, please, give me this money so I can make this. Mm-hmm. This is almost a guaranteed win. And then sometimes you get good. Sometimes they say no, but sometimes they say yes. And then you're seeing it with a lot of horror stuff nowadays. Hit after hit. And it's just like, whoa, I didn't know people still liked horror. And then, I mean, coming from me, I didn't know people still liked horror that much, but people do. So they just like good stuff. So
we are in the middle of a horror renaissance right now, specifically in video games, but also in film. And people are just like, wow, look at all these big budget like horror video games. AAA horror is back. And it is, but it's only back because of the success of indie horror, which never went away and always has been pushing hard and always like has had that spark and passion. So yeah, maybe the Dead Space remake is only going to be okay, but like fucking play Devotion. Like play something weird. Play Nightmare of Decay. Play Lost in Vivo. Like there is amazing stuff out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's for every genre. Like the more I look at it, the more I'm like, that's every genre.
Here's the inverse. When we say vote with your wallet, which is not something new, we are not the first person to say that. We're not just talking about don't support toxic habits or whatever. Also, do support things that you care about. If you find something small and weird, give them money. Find a way to give them a tip. Reach out to them directly and just tell them that you appreciate them. Like, I don't know how many people do this, but like, I have definitely like reached out to small companies and just said, hey, I think that what you're doing is really cool and special. And that goes a long way. That makes a difference. Like, kindle that passion, appreciate people.
Yeah. Know how it would feel if you were in that position and some rando out in the internet said, and you were putting your heart and soul into this. And yeah, it may not be as good as this, but you aspire to create something that is going to catch on. And then you see other people that like to do stuff that the same similar, and then they, you see this build up. Whatever it is, it could be horror, it could be action, it could be, first person shooters, even. It happens across the board. And then you get some
Dusk is so fucking good.
But anyway, okay. But like, and then you have some rando or a couple randos like personally message you like through Steam or whatever and say, hey, I really, really like what you're doing. You're doing good work here. Keep at it. You're like, it's such a motivator.
Yeah.
For any artist, it's such a motivator to be like, wow, that feels good. That gives me the warm and fuzzies inside that I can keep moving and be like, that could fuel you for the next couple months. Believe it or not, that happens.
I mean, this isn't a hypothetical for me. Like, I make independent tabletop games, and when
chill.
Enter the Survival Horror, a tabletop RPG inspired by Resident Evil. It's good. And when people reach out to me, I have like this little Discord, and it's not very popular, and there's not a lot that goes on there, but people will join and just say, hey, I got your game and I'm running it for some friends. Like, God, like, what an amazing feeling. Like, just to feel like people are doing it. People are trying it. They're caring. And like, enormous. Like, it puts a spring in my step for the whole week. Like,
yeah. And we're not saying go out and just support every indie you see.
Give me money. No. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. Support indies that you think are cool.
Yeah.
I don't support everything I see. In fact, a lot of what I see is like, oh, this isn't for me. This isn't for me.
Sure.
This isn't for me. But then again, occasionally I'll come across something like a Mega Man, not a Mega Man clone, but something like that or whatever. And I'm like, ooh, okay, what is this? And it's still the same concept, because then I see this and I'm like, wow, I didn't know somebody actually cared about this stuff like I did.
Yep.
And then I look at it, and then it's well made, and it's by like 5 guys, and I'm like, cool guys, you made something cool. This is awesome. Keep at it. And I see more and more stuff like that in almost every genre. And that means you can find stuff to get you fueled and moving forward, so you can change the system. Because that's always about it. Change the system, because the system will bend when like it sees, oh, there's a trend. Now, mind you, there's the antithesis of that, of it bends too much, and then you have nothing but this.
Sure.
But that's usually over years, and it's a circle.
Remember that the Deadpool movie only happened because they leaked the test footage, and it got a really positive response. Internally, they were like, no, that's not going to work. We're not going to do that. Like, it was only because of passion of fans and the passion of the people involved. And like, they're not my favorite movies in the world, but like, the people involved do really care about them.
Oh, they care about it. And that's with a lot of stuff. And you see that happening. You see that happening with all kinds of stuff. And that can be nothing but good, in my opinion. It can be nothing but good. So, yeah. Anyway, marketing with a capital M. And how you shouldn't be afraid of it, but you should be wary of it.
We are always being sold stuff every waking moment of our lives. be aware of it, be
Yes.
mindful of it, understand your place in the system, and
Yes,
you know,
understand your place, but also understand your
Yeah.
power.
care.
And
Like
yeah,
that's all it comes down to.
That's the care and try. Care and try is the best thing that you could do to move the marketing needle.
Corey, you're speaking my
Because-
love language.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, hey, dude, I learned from a lot from
Mhm.
you. Where, like, yeah, it may have been very angrily, but you, like back in the day, you cared about stuff.
I did.
And you cared about it loudly. And yeah, I had to sit back and look at a couple of things that you've said over the years and be like, you know what? He's not wrong. He's right. Now, I wouldn't have said it like that because I'm always about,
Yeah.
okay, how can we move
You
forward?
would have said it like,
I don't want to just sit in a
"He's
place
right."
of anger. He's right.
He's not wrong, he's right. That's how you would have said it.
Oh yeah. Those he's not wrong, he's right.
Mhm.
5 words. But I mean that's a thing is and going with that is like just that's how you learn. Imagine, all these franchises and all these films and all these people learning from each other and then making the stuff that they want to make with the things that they learn from other things, and then it all coexists together and it all builds on each other, and then we start getting more and more good stuff. And good stuff not everybody's going to like everything, but at least it's going to be up to par, and it's going to be like, this isn't a bad movie, it's just it's
And
not
again,
for me. And that is better than being, okay, this is bad because it's bad. It's not well made.
And
So,
again, I think that we
yes,
are
that
in
varies, but
a golden age of media. Like, I think there is amazing stuff happening all the time. It just might not be on Front Street. So give
Yeah.
something a chance. Try something weird.
yeah, I was just about to say, give it a chance. Give it a
Yeah.
try. You might be pleasantly surprised.
Totally.
And
Watch
Yeah, and it's good to be
Extraordinary.
surprised.
It's a small budget Irish horror comedy, and it's delightful. And no one has heard of it.
yeah. I have not heard
Absolute
of it. I'm
joy.
gonna be completely honest.
Like,
Yeah. That's good. It's important because you might find your new favorite thing. Or you might not.
Yep.
Not everything is going to be like that, but
you never know what your new
But
favorite
anyway.
thing is going to be.
you never know what you're going to get. But anyway, we've been on the marketing train enough. It's time for us to hop off. I need to get off. I don't have a ticket and the
It's
guy's
time to
coming.
bail.
So he's going to either kick me off or I'm going to bail. I'm going to go head first out the car, roll on the ground, and, like Bruce Willis, I'm going to, let the car drive itself off of like a toll booth and crash into a helicopter, and I'm going to
I was planning on
maniacally
rolling
and be
down the
like,
hill
"Yeah, I
like
meant to
the
do
baby
that."
in Kung Pao.
Oh man. But yeah, that's good. That's a good marketing tool.
Mhm.
And I'm glad I got your viewpoints on
Yeah.
it, dude. It's really good.
The people at home are like, but when are they going to talk about Speed Racer? And sorry.
We're gonna talk about Tolkien stuff before we talk about Speed Racer.
But we'll talk about it.
but-
We'll loop back around to all of these subjects.
Eventually.
Because we love them.
Yeah, we got a lot. We, believe it or not, guys, we are not just farting this stuff out like, oh, I guess this will work. No, we have quite a bit of subjects that we want to get into that we've touched on throughout our years of calling each other and being like, I don't know, what do you want to do?
Yeah, all of this stuff is interconnected,
But,
so
yeah.
we'll loop back eventually.
It's a oh man, we just created our own universe. It's all
connected.
It's all connected.
With that said,
you how can people reach you, dude?
I have been Adam Bucherri. I am an animator and an independent game designer. If you want to check out my games, find me those on boocherry.itch.io. That is boo like ghost, cherry like fruit.
I have been Corey Revis, illustrator and comic creator. You can find me on Instagram at EARTHUR_1. I'm usually on there more than anything because that hasn't collapsed into a dumpster fire yet. So, yeah. But we'll see how this goes.
Whew.
We'll see how this goes.
Whew, that was a potent chit chat.
Yeah. Oh, that was super tight, dude.
Super tight. Real tight.
Super tight.
Yeah. tight.
But anyway, okay, dude, I gotta go.
Oh, yeah,
So
for sure.
I will see you. Yeah, I will talk to you soon.
All right.
We'll just say soon. All right. I love you, dude.
I love you too. Take care.
All right. See ya.
In isolation. Thor! I'm casting Cure. I've turned into Gilbert Godfrey again. Oh boy, some of this is not making it into the final cut of this episode.
Oh no. Oh, come on. This is good. This is good content.